Okay, we are live.
Hi.
Hi, what's up, Brian?
Oh.
Okay, hi.
I
Was that like a chipmunk kind of?
don't know what it was. It's just like let's I don't know. I don't know. I'm in a funny mood tonight,
Oh, I'm
maybe.
excited for that. That'll be
Or
fun.
and I don't know if it's like in the good way.
Oh, okay. We'll see. Check out this new beverage I'm trying out for the first time today. This is like, okay, 5 years ago, I'd be showing you some like Red Bull
I
or like
just
a
I just
beer.
had flashbacks to your Red Bull routine.
This is a cranberry ginger ale flavored sparkling water.
Oh, you've become just so boring.
I'm such a loser.
So painfully boring.
Yeah. Oh, sad.
Oh.
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I actually like started thinking of what's something interesting I could say about myself, but I blanked.
I put on a suit yesterday for a wedding like that I wore when I got married, which was like, can you believe, like 8.5 years ago?
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, it kind of fits, but like I was still feeling like pretty decent about it. And then I packed it and went to Montreal and a shirt too. Like I got went custom for the wedding. It cost more than the wedding dress. Anyway, that's just how I did it, I guess.
Cool
Um,
guy.
yeah, it was a cool suit. And then I get to Montreal. First, I forgot my tie. I was like,
Hmm.
I had everything else, which is pretty good. I usually forget something. I've never forgotten the tie. But then I tried to do up the button on the suit jacket. Wasn't happening.
I thought you said you tried it and it fit.
Yeah, I didn't do up the button.
Well, that's part of trying something on. It's like having a dress shirt and just like putting your arms through it, like, okay, it fits.
Yeah, well, I no, next time I need to like do the button, reach up, reach across. Like there's a lot of body movements I need to
Yeah,
simulate, like bend down to tie my shoe,
right,
because
of
all of these
course.
things were difficult in the
Well,
suit that fit
I
me
don't
like a
know.
glove 8.5 years ago.
Like on the podcast, you don't look different. Like microphone up, you don't
I don't.
look like you've gained any weight.
I feel like I don't. Oh, yeah, gained
Maybe
weight or
below what
older.
we don't
It's just like,
see.
you know what? It's just like what can you do? You know.
I guess eat less, exercise. There's a lot of
Someone
things
told
you could
me
do.
my uncle who I saw, I was how's it going? He's like, once you hit 70, it's like you're heading into the wind. And I'm like, I felt like that once I hit 35. So like I don't
Yeah.
know what 70 is gonna feel like for me.
I think you just
But
gotta always enjoy it. You gotta enjoy what you are, you know? It's like
yeah.
10 years from now, you're gonna look back and be like, oh, I wish I was 40 again. So it's
Yeah,
like,
I look so good. Yeah,
yeah, look
exactly.
at you.
His
You look
advice was
cool.
very classic. It was like to skip 70 if you can. I'm like, all right, you got it. He's wearing a shirt that's just like it was a custom shirt with like a
Hmm.
straight up portrait of him with Michael Jackson.
That's
Like
cool.
going like, yeah, I think it was Michael Jackson or an impersonator. Like there was no visible, like aside, like it was when he was covering his whole face, like it was impossible to tell, but I believe it was.
Okay.
We should probably
Patty
start.
got Philips Hue lights, so she's an interesting person.
Are those
You
the
can
nice
control it
ones
with
that?
your smartphone or a smart device.
Oh, I've always wondered if I should get those alarm clocks, the lights where they like gradually.
Oh, that's something else. I don't know. Who cares?
Okay.
Why do you need that? These are like, I don't get these types of things. It's like, I guess some people have like issues with waking up and going to sleep and whatever. I mean, I just need my alarm to go off. Well, now
Do
my
you know,
baby's my
since
alarm, but
one reason I'm so exhausted is since daylight savings kicked in, like
mhm.
I feel I've forgotten how to sleep. It's crazy. I'm up like at least 2 hours before I'm supposed to be every night,
Jeez,
every morning.
jealous.
I
I mean, I'm
can't
not
sleep.
jealous, but like, it's
No,
hard
it's
to
bad.
imagine
I don't
having
wake
that
up
like
feeling
opportunity.
rested.
Yeah,
What, to
no, no,
wake
for
up
sure.
early?
I guess
What's
like
the
it's like we're on the opposite side. Like I'm like I wish I could sleep more, but I don't get the opportunity because I'm woken up. And you wish you
Mm-hmm.
could sleep more, but you're woken up by yourself. I guess I'm woken up
Yeah.
like like I have the abilities that you wish you had, but I don't get
Yes.
to use them.
I had those abilities 3 weeks ago.
You'll get them back.
Poof.
This could I don't know. Okay. I
Patron
like.
Cast Tuesday for anyone who wants
Oh
more of
yeah, you want
this
more of this? Well, we have some good questions.
and like more hockey.
Oh yeah, there'll be
Yeah,
some hockey, I guess, on the Patreon
more
cast.
hockey talkie.
Okay, we can start. I added a new feature
Norm,
to
thank
game day
you.
tweets.
That's validating.
Hmm.
Shout out Norm.
What did Norm say? Daylight savings is terrible. Yeah, yeah, I
Just
agreed.
saying, like,
Yeah.
but I've never had a trouble adjusting.
Do you want to hear about a new feature I added to game day tweets
Yeah,
a couple days ago?
yeah.
But it's behind the scenes. But like my
Oh,
matching was really annoying. You know how like a tweet comes in, then it matches to a player, so that when you search for the player, it shows the tweets for that player. Owen Power and Braden Point were getting tagged in so many tweets because their names like are common hockey terms that are in
oh,
tweets
power
all the time.
play point. Yeah.
So I added a new feature where I could like in my admin portal like tag players to be ignored in the matching unless it's by their own team. And I put power and point, and now my cleanup, my daily cleanup is a lot easier when I'm going through the tags. I was so sick of seeing Owen
Imagine if
Power everywhere.
imagine if Miroslav Satan was still in the league.
Well, what? Why? There's a lot of tweets mentioning the word
Satan.
Satan. I
Like
mean, I don't retweet those. It's only the ones we retweet.
not on your game day account.
Also, it's annoying, but there's nothing I could think of to fix this. Anytime a beat writer from New Jersey retweets something about Jack Hughes, it tags Quinn, like not Quinn, you know, the
Luke.
other Hughes,
Luke.
Luke Hughes and Jack Hughes. Always like Luke Hughes is tagged in all the Jack Hughes tweets and vice versa. Because I don't know how to stop it. How am I supposed to know?
I think you need to
I need to know by context. I need
I
like
think you need to
AI.
send beat writers a special hashtag they can use to clarify
Oh,
that will
which
help your site
yeah,
and
that would be
only your
nice.
site parse the information.
All right, well, that's 10 minutes of banter. So I guess we're on here. Part
We're
one's going
doing
to end at
50
nine
and
o'clock.
50. Yeah, on the
Okay,
dot.
here we
You have your
go.
joke?
Yeah, it's ready. It's
Okay.
not a joke though. It's sad. But okay, here we go.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, welcome everybody to another episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the longest running fantasy hockey podcast in the world, hosted by a guy who you know is dedicated to bringing you content no matter what. Because I'm still here, even though Tage Thompson got injured Monday. Patrick Laine is freaking scratched today, but I'm still here, Brian, with you to do an awesome podcast, and I'm so excited for it. I already gave away who I'm with, but I'm Elon Dubrovsky, and with me is the fantasy hockey robot, the Poobah prognostication, the man who is going to help me work through all the news, the hot streaks, the cold streaks, talking about players who suck and I hate. It's Brian Cobb. How's it going, Brian?
Hey, well, I'm feeling pretty down now. Like after that, and I have Liney too. And actually, Elon, I bet like you did better than me this week. I feel like I might have one of the lowest scores in the cupful this week. I'm almost getting lapped in my matchup, and I was like, okay, like my opponent's having a really great week, like nothing I could do. And then I checked all the other matchups from the week in my division in tier 4 Joker it, and it's not them, it's me. I'm the problem.
Oh
So
no.
yeah, let's get Elon, let's get our weeks on track, our seasons on track, and help everyone keep theirs on or get back wherever you're at in your fantasy. We're gonna meet you where you
Starting
are
now.
this episode. Yeah, let's do it.
I actually, Brian, in my couple division, tier 3 Frulunda, I have the fourth highest score of everyone in the division,
There you go.
but my opponent has, I think, the second highest. So it's going to be an L for your boy. I'm going to be 2-4, but you've heard it here first. And I'm sorry to Fenner, but next week, I'm guaranteeing victory. I'm winning my matchup next week against Fenner.
He's dropping the Alfie clause. I guess
It's
it's more the
happening.
Messier clause, but
I
nobody
just
likes my
added,
Messier.
if you listen to my, oh yeah, Messier got it right. If you listened to Matchup Maximizer yesterday, I named Connor Zari as one of my streamers of the week, and I just added him. So it's a lock. I'm gonna win. Even though this past week I said that I thought Tolvanen was the streamer of the week, and I did add him, and he was really great. I'm still losing, but that's not my fault. That's because Ryan B is great. But what am I
You
gonna do?
know, let's find out if player performances are their fault or not.
By you mean by doing the content of the show?
Yeah,
I thought we would talk more about just me and my team for a little
I'm
longer.
like I'm excited that the storyline has been said, and I'll open next week by either calling you Mark or Daniel, depending on
Okay.
where whether you've Messier or Alfredsoned yourself here.
All right. Well, definitely the mark of websites is dobberhockey.com, which we're very proud
Whoa.
to be presented of. They bring it every week. They promise they will, and they do. It's a great site. So check it out for all your hockey news and, of course, Frozen Tools. But, Brian, okay, let's get into it. We got our headlines of the week here, and I want to start in Florida. We got a lot going on in Florida, okay? Since Monday, we have an injury to Alex Barkov. Apparently, he's only day to day. So hopefully it's not too serious. He had a knee on knee collision. So I guess you don't want to be like, oh, he's injury prone. It's Barkov, but like he does somehow miss time every year. But I don't want to blame him. You don't want to blame the victim here. But anyways, on the plus side, they've got Sam Bennett back, and then in the last game, Ekblad and Montour made their returns. So it's a whole new. If Barkov didn't get hurt, we would have had like a fully healthy team. The interesting thing, so Florida played Thursday and Friday. They didn't play on Saturday. So the latest was Friday, and we saw Oliver Ekman-Larsson hold top power play for whatever that was worth. But then we did have new practice lines come out today. So here are the lines, Brian, for Florida's game tomorrow. You've got, and again, this is with Barkov out. So Lundell is taking Barkov's spot with Reinhardt and Verhaeghe. So that makes Anton Lundell a good streamer. By the way, I'll just throw that out there for next week. For as long as Barkov is out, right? And then Tkachuk with Sam Bennett and Evan Rodriguez. And then more interesting, the power play, PP1, two defensemen, OEL, Montour, Reinhardt, Tkachuk, Verhaeghe. Again, keep in mind Barkov is out. So maybe Oliver Ekman-Larsson is just clinging to that spot because he's taking the Barkov spot. Or is Montour like the one who like so Brian, what do you think in general? Like, do you keep Oliver Ekman-Larsson a little bit longer? Because he's clinging to this top power play, or is this like clearly just they're working him in, keep him for a game, but don't expect to hold him long term?
I think that's it, Elon. I thought you were going to ask me, do we hold Ekman-Larsson not just because he's on the power play, but because he has 8 points in his last 8 games now. 3 of those have come on the power play. But 4 of those 8 points in Ekman-Larsson's last 8 games have been goals, and they've come on 10 shots. So this is how Oliver Ekman-Larsson tricked so many years ago that he was a legit power play 1 quarterback. Nothing has changed since then, except, he's on a nice little shooting bender at the moment. And it came at the right time to maybe buy him an extra game or 2 on the top power play. But Elon, I would be really, really surprised if Ekman-Larsson held the spot for any longer. And honestly, even if he did, if he could stay relevant from this spot, that would surprise me as well. So
sell.
I would, it's a sell for sure. And like, if anyone's panicking about no one's panicking, right? That's crazy. But if Brandon Montour obviously is a free agent in, a shallow enough league, I wouldn't wait till he gets on the top power play. I'd just go get him now.
Yeah, well, he is scheduled for tomorrow to be there. Like I said, with 2 defensemen, and I think that he's gonna be fine for what it's with. Montour first game back played 24 minutes, 1 shot, no points. Not much to talk about. And then Ekblad, this was in a 2-1 win, by the way, over the Ducks. Ekblad had 4 shots and a hit and a block. So there you go. No points either. It'll be fun to watch. Obviously, you're excited to get both of these guys. Well, maybe let's put a note to dive into them more next week when we have a bit more data. The guy, though, who I want to, I think we have a little bit of data at least. And I want to ask you, Brian, does Sam Bennett suck? Because he has come back. And even with Barkov out, as we're seeing, he's not on the top power play. So that stinks. It's been 5 games now for Bennett. I guess he was injured quickly in one of them. But so 4 games since he's come back, no points, 0 shots in each of the first 2 games. He did then get 2 shots versus LA, 4 shots versus Anaheim. So maybe 8 shots coming tomorrow. We'll see if one of them can go in. But at this point, if Sam Bennett, he's playing on a line with Matthew Tkachuk, so that's good. But I don't know, bro. I've got him in Cupful. I waited a long time for him. Now I'm already wondering if I should drop. I'm holding him for Monday because it's a light day anyways. But after that, the schedule isn't that great. So how much longer do I give this guy rope?
So far, no good for Sam Bennett. Yeah. But you know what? He has picked it up with 6 shots in his last 2 games, including 4 in his most recent one, that game against Anaheim you mentioned. Hits and blocks are coming for Bennett too. He's just starting his season. Okay. And he hasn't looked good up until these last 2 games, but he's coming off an injury. And I'm going to just say it again. He's just starting his season. So he is joining an NHL where, we're almost at the quarter mark. Folks are up to speed. Sam Bennett is not. So If you are lucky enough to have him stashed, you could keep him stashed if possible until he starts producing. I have that situation in one league, and I just have the luxury of keeping it that way. There's limited moves for the season, so I'm in no rush to drop someone in case someone else gets injured. Bennett's just like my already picked free agent replacement for whichever guy gets injured next on my roster. But yeah, I'm not losing faith in Sam Bennett yet, Elon, but I understand why you would be. I would say though, if he can continue what he's done the last couple games, like if he keeps putting up score lines where he gets at least 2 or 3 shots, a hit, block, or a couple of the few of those combined, then it's just going to be a matter of time.
I guess I still would have preferred some power play, but I guess maybe that was on me for expecting that in the first place. He got it a bit last season. All right, so it seems like maybe we'll just have to come back to Florida to start next week's show, and we can talk more about Bennett, Ekblad, Montour, see how these guys do with a few more games. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, of course, one player who right from the start, he started his season also like wait, wow, he started his season on October 12th, like most players, but he didn't need a bunch of games to get going. Sam Reinhart was hot from the start, and he's continued to be red hot. He is now up to 24 points in 17 games. To tell how high people are on Reinhart now, and for good reason. When Tage Thompson got injured, I thought to myself, maybe it's I like I said, I'm going to be 2-4 now. I don't have time to wait for this Tage Thompson injury to heal, so I figured I'd try to sell him for someone. And I thought, maybe the Sam Reinhart manager would be willing to give a guy who they drafted in like the 5th round or whatever for a first rounder. I got a quick reject on my offer of Thompson for Sam Reinhart. So it's still early, but it'll be fun if people were redrafting now. I'm thinking Reinhart goes ahead of Thompson based on at least that offer. Maybe obviously there's an injury which complicates things. It'll be really fun to see if Reinhart, because again, as I've said it many times, like Reinhart was really good for the second half of last year, right? The only reason he slipped in drafts is because he had such a slow start. I'm really curious to see where Reinhardt's going to end up. And if he ends up as like a 100-point guy, we'll be having a lot of fun conversations this summer about like how high to draft him next year. He's playing like a top round pick. He's been incredible.
Yeah, he sure has. Like Elon, I think that it's definitely the injury to Tage Thompson that swayed that deal. I can't be certain that Sam Reinhart is a legit first rounder. Although we've already said a few times on the show, right? We think he's point per game with upside for more. Right now, that upside for more is really coming through. Thanks, I think, to some power play goal scoring. Last season, he had 16 power play goals in 82 games. He's already up to 5 power play goals in 17 games, and that shows in his 26% shooting percentage. So I think 100-point upside is still there for Reinhart. If I were the Thompson manager,
that's me.
Sorry, if I were the Reinhart manager,
that's not me. I wish.
And I had like room to spare in the standings, I would take that deal. And I had like some confidence, that Tage Thompson would be back soon enough, and there was no cloud of uncertainty about it. Then yeah, I would take that deal. So I don't know. We'll see if you dodged a bullet or not. But I know you need help now, so I understand why you wanted to do that.
Well, I mean, to be fair, let's talk about this Tage Thompson injury because it happened back on Monday. We still haven't talked about it on the show. Obviously, they covered it on short shifts. Before Thompson got hurt, he had 12 points in 16 games, right? So a far cry from what Reinhart has been doing. But anyways, Thompson is at this point not as bad as the injury apparently initially looked. Well, if you recall, he got hurt, then he came back, and then he got hurt again. It was like, ugh, give me a break. But anyway, maybe if he just wouldn't have come back. I don't know, whatever. Okay, this is just me being salty. But anyways, according to the Sabres placed him on IR. They said he's had a few weeks to a little over a month. So this has been 1 week. I don't know. Couple more to go, maybe, hopefully, and then he'll be back. Hopefully he comes back and it's not the kind of thing where now his like wrist or whatever hand is injured and he's like not able to shoot properly. Hopefully it's more like when a player gets injured and it gives them time to get their head right and he comes back and scores 4 goals in the first game because he's had all this time to really mentally prepare, like I guess he didn't do fully to start the season. So not much to say there, but I'll give you the lines for today. Buffalo's playing right now actually against Chicago. It's 1-1. They're in the second. And yeah, so Buffalo is rolling Skinner, Tuck, and Dylan Cousins. So I guess just Cousins taking the Thompson spot on the top line. And then the next line is Middlestat, Paterka, and Zach Benson, who's back from his injury. And man, we should dive into. So probably you're not going to be able to add like a Dylan Cousins. It's a nice upgrade for him. We'll see if he could do anything with it. But the hotness in Buffalo lately has definitely been JJ Paterka, right? What a streak he's been on ever since he started getting more ice time. Now he's in that top six. He's also been on the top power play recently, anyways. And yeah, we're up to now 12 points in 18 games for Paterka, like around like 9 points in his last 10 games. We'll see how he does today against Chicago. How much are you believing in this Paterka hot streak? If he's still out there for anyone, is this like a pause the pod, rush to grab him as fast as you can? Maybe I'd like to actually, to contrast, last week we talked about sorry, Seth Jarvis. I remember you were saying kind of like, well, Jarvis, maybe like people were a little bit too high on. I'm not so sure about Seth Jarvis. Like, he's good. He's a hold. I don't know if he's as great as we thought he was at the start of the year. I'm just curious to get your take now on like a Paterka excitement level versus a Seth Jarvis level after Jarvis just had a huge game himself, 2 goals and 1 assist.
Okay, there's a lot to. I think I'll
Of
start
course.
just on the Paterka angle here, which is that he's good, right? And the last time we talked about Buffalo, remember we were talking about the run that Paterka and Casey Middlestat were both on, and I was like, even with Middlestat on the top power play, I think I'd still prefer Paterka. By the way, Paterka showed up on the top power play in the last game too, but Paterka's up to, and I don't know that he'll stay there, of course, but it's interesting to see. Middlestat's also still up there for what it's worth. Paterka points in 8 of his last 10 games, adding up to 10 points total, 5 goals, 5 assists, averaging 3 shots per game. Some might look at Paterka's 16% shooting percentage and say that might be too high, but I think it might be just right based on the quality of shots that Paterka seems to be getting off. So I'm a fan of Paterka, even if he's like line 2, power play 2. He's still, I said it before, that I think he could be a hold the rest of the way. And I'm still seeing that that's the case. Middlestat, just by the way, for comparison, not writing him off or anything, but 1 point in his last 5. So if you did make the choice to keep Paterka over Middlestat, then good job. Way to go. Tage Thompson, by the way, Elon, I just want to not skip him entirely. He along, I'll get to this in a minute too about some other Buffalo players, but the Buffalo power play is struggling. That's one reason why Thompson is struggling. At 5-on-5, he's down a little bit of ice time per night, has yet to pick up a secondary assist, is a little less involved in participating in goals scored while he's on the ice. So these are all sort of markers of low variance, of bad variance, I should say. But one thing that I do wonder about is his Lions expected goals rates are lower, like significantly, than last year. And I just wonder, like, it seems like the personnel is largely unchanged. So I'm not sure if they're being asked to play differently or what exactly it is. But that might also speak to why Tage has had a less successful start to this season than he did. Well, last season also had a slow start, but I don't recall it lasting quite this long. So I understand why you're struggling between them. Okay, Seth Jarvis. Yeah, remember I said like he's a guy who may or may not be rosterable for full season. And Jarvis versus Paterka. Honestly, Elon, like I see Jarvis had the 2 goals and 1 assist against Pittsburgh on Saturday. I see that he's still on the top power play. I see he's still on a good even strength line, and I still just don't really feel that he's someone I need to have. Like if I had to drop one of Jarvis and Paterka, it's close. I don't know. It's kind of crazy, but I think I would drop Jarvis just because Paterka shoots more regularly, and I think is in a position to at least point more regular. Maybe I'm still very open to the possibility I'm too down on Jarvis, but during the 6, is it 6 or 5 game pointless drought that Jarvis just snapped with that 3-point performance, he wasn't shooting a whole lot. Like a 1-shot game, a 0-shot game, a 2-shot game. Like that's not that exciting for me. And so I don't know. Like to me, he hasn't quite broken through yet. And I think the potential is there. Right now, he's on a 63-point pace, which frankly, I could see Paterka matching. And Paterka's floor is probably lower. So I think Jarvis is probably like a bit safer. But I don't know. There's something about Paterka and his shots, I think, that I especially like.
Okay, that's fair. Like, take that swing. It sounds like you're saying basically those guys are kind of close, which is still really great for Paterka, right? The fact that he's
Yeah.
in the conversation with Jarvis, who's been like at the top of his team's lineup for now like a couple seasons. We had a question in the chat here: Ben Smith, Paterka versus Tolvanen. We'll get to Tolvanen later. Maybe I should make. Maybe I'm making Brian like get too scattered going to all these different teams. First, let me ask you about a couple more Sabres. Okay, really quickly. Jeff Skinner has been super cold. I guess you mentioned this power play. Is the answer just power play? Like Jeff Skinner's season now, if we take a look, no points today. Like, so he's pointless in 4. I think that's including today's game. So maybe today isn't fair, but at least pointless in 3. He had a good start to the year, but yeah, starting to slow down a little bit. And even like Darlene hasn't been as great as people expected him to be. So is this all just a matter of the power play? And maybe now also with Tage Thompson out, obviously that's not going to help.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to help. But yeah, I think it's definitely the power play. So Skinner has 1 power play point in 18 games. Darlene has 4 power play points in 18 games. Obviously, Skinner like is on pace for 4 power play points this season, which isn't going to hold. Darlene is doing a little better, on pace for like 16-ish. And even then, like that's low for both of them, right? The Buffalo power play so far this season has scored just 5 goals on 49 attempts. They're shooting 6.5%. And you know what? They're actually not looking terribly threatening. They ranked 27th in the league in power play expected goals rates, but Buffalo was similar last season in the way they set up their power play. They shot 16%. So, actually, maybe the power play last season, where Darlene had 32 power play points in 78 games, maybe the Sabres power play, since they don't seem to have really stepped it up since then in threat level, maybe they were a little overperforming last season on that Buffalo power play, but still they shouldn't be shooting like 6.5% instead. So like Darlene, I still expect to be at least in the high 20s for power play points. Skinner, I'd expect to be in at least the low, probably the mid 20s for power play points too. And I think that's what's hurting both of them right now, because at 5-on-5, Darlene and Skinner is still looking pretty strong.
And guess what, Brian? As you were talking, the chat is blowing up, being like, "Hey guys, Skinner just scored a power play goal.
There it
Look at that!"
is.
And the assists went to Darlene and Paterka. So it's all the
Love
players
it.
we're just talking about.
I love it. I love to be proven right immediately, categorically,
It's over.
undisputedly right. Like we could end this show. We're not going to talk about them again because I was right.
There's no need. Brian, we still do have some other players, I guess we might as well talk about, see if we can trigger them to score goals. I guess next I want to go to New Jersey, and they're not playing today, so that's going to be pretty tough. We'll get to them in just a sec. You're listening to Keeping Karlsson. We are back. Hello, Brian. It is still 2-1 for the Sabres. It would be cool if, like, during our break, Paterka or Skinner got in on another goal. But no, let's go to New Jersey. Jack Hughes is back, and he is very good. He's not going to need any, like you said about Sam Bannon. Oh, he's been out for a couple games. He needs some time to get back. No. So Jack Hughes, and he wasn't even on like such an exciting line. Jack Hughes came back to play with. I'm seeing Curtis Lazar and Eric Halla were Hughes' line mates for a lot of the last game. Anyways, 1 goal, 1 assist, 8 shots in this game against the Rangers. The Devils lost. I guess that's the only downside. But man, Hughes, he's good. We don't even need to talk about him. I'm just saying he's very, very good. And I wish I had him in a fantasy league. Incredible. So Timo Meier is hurt now. I think that one is pretty short term. Let me see if we have an updated like announcement about him. Just like, the latest was like he won't play tonight, which was yesterday. So obviously when you see something like that, he was a game time decision or something. Okay, yeah. So, and same with actually Nico Hischier. They're seeing how they're doing each day was the quote from Lindy Ruff. So hopefully Meier and Hischier will be back soon. In the meantime, if you want to get some exposure to superstar Jack Hughes, I'm taking a look at Eric Halla, Brian. Like he's like I said, playing with Hughes in the last game. He got himself a goal himself. I used the word himself twice in a sentence. Wouldn't do well in my high school English. But 4 points in 3 games now for Eric Halla. 11 points in 15 games overall. He's kind of sneakily having his career year at the age of 32. I don't know how long this will last, but I definitely like him for now, for as long as he's going to be playing with Jack Hughes, right?
Yeah, take him for as long as he's playing with Jack Hughes. He's like, I'm not sure exactly what's going on with Eric Howla. I looked at his numbers and nothing really stands out to me. I guess he's scored 6 times on 31 shots, which equals almost 20%, which is high. That's one reason he's doing well. The other reason might be exposure to Jack Hughes. What a weird line Jack Hughes is like. They're basically like, Jack Hughes, play with anyone and that's Eric Howla and Curtis Lazar right now. Lazar, by the way, has 3 points in his last 2 games with 4 shots and 7 hits. So I don't know if you're in a deep enough league and you want some of that Jack Hughes exposure through as long as this lasts, you could look at Curtis Lazar. I don't know how long that's going to last, though. It's a super strange setup.
Yeah, I mean, and they also lost again, like I said, against the Rangers. So probably things will get shaken up. And who knows, maybe Meyer and Heischer will be back. And then we'll talk about them next week in the highlights when we're talking about injuries. But let's go to the next team here with an injury. I got 2 more sort of injuries, big time injuries and injuries. I guess big time in quotes. But Tommy Novak hurt over on Nashville. I like him. I talk about him a lot. I probably talk about him too much on this podcast, but he's a really good player, and that's obviously going to hurt anyone who drafted him, got him as a steal late in their drafts. In the meantime, like if you recall last week, we talked about Tommy Novak because he had bumped Tyson Barrie from the top power play. So now with Novak, everyone keeping up with Novak out now, you would expect that Barrie just takes his spot back. No. Actually, in the last game for Nashville against Chicago, here was the top power play. ROR, Forsberg, and then Gustav Nyquist, Cody Glass, and Roman Josi. So a couple names there that are probably worth mentioning. And the one that's most interesting to me is definitely Gustav Nyquist, Brian. I brought him up yesterday on Matchup Maximizer because Nashville has a good schedule next week. And by the way, in terms of good schedules, that's basically if you play Monday and Saturday. That's all it takes to have a good schedule next week because of the way things are shaking out with those 2 missed days. But yeah, Nyquist is in a great spot playing with Forsberg to even strengthen on the power play, and Ryan O'Reilly, by the way, not chopped liver, and also 5 points in his last 4 games. Nyquist is kind of like an Eric Howla to me, like someone that I recall at times thinking was valuable in fantasy, but it feels like it's been a long time ago. But at this point, I'm interested in Gustav Nyquist. I actually added him in my dynasty that I'm teaming up with Victor in, and I'm excited to see what he'll do for us next week. You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry. Okay. You're excited to see what Gustav Nyquist does for us next week.
Yeah. Top line, top power play, hot streak.
Yeah. You can go for, I mean, like we've seen Nyquist not do anything from this kind of deployment before, right? And it is kind of hit or miss. And when he hits, it's exciting. Like it's happened in Columbus. I think, did it ever happen in San Jose? I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, this is sort of the Gustav Nyquist story. So you can go for it, take him in good deployment. Just keep in mind, he's going to get 1 or 2 shots a game, like only. So if he does any more, if that's all he does, then I'm sorry. Like it's a bad stream. But of course, if he picks up a point, as Nyquist has done in his last 4 games, go for it. I'm looking at his full season sample, and for what it's worth, Nyquist has shown nothing of interest, like nothing different, nothing special compared to previous years. So yeah, now that the deployment has changed, that's good, I guess. And you mentioned the schedule thing too. I don't know.
And he's on a hot streak. There's 3 things.
Go for
good
it.
Lines, hot streak, good schedule.
Yeah. And all 3 of those reasons make me feel like, okay, I will go ahead and take the Gustav Nyquist plunge again, but I will be ready to be sad and regretful about it.
Fair. You know who's probably feeling sad and regretful at the moment? People who drafted UC Saros as a top goalie in fantasy this year. It hasn't been good. I've been waiting. I've been thinking this for a while, just looking at the results. The season didn't start so bad for Saros, so it wasn't incredible, but it's really started to go bad recently. And I think, like I said, we're a quarter of the way into the season. We got to start considering this. It's not that small a sample size. You look at Saros's, even just his last 5 games, only 1 game where he let in 3 or fewer goals, and that was 3. So, or no, 2 games with 3 or fewer goals. So he's had 4, 3, 5, 6, and 3 goals against in each of his last 5 games. And these aren't like huge shots against games. Like his most recent game against Anaheim, where Anaheim beat Nashville 3-2. It was 3 goals against on 20 shots for an .850 save percentage. You look at Saros overall, .892 save percentage on the season. Compare that. I don't even need to leave the organization. Compare that to their backup goalie, Kevin Lankinen. He's only played 4 games. Obviously, it's hard to compare, but Lankinen's got a .910 save percentage. He's got 2 wins. And they just played Lankinen. It wasn't an off day thing, but they gave him the game against Chicago on Saturday. Nice, handy little win for Lankinen, stopping 29 of 31. So I mean, it's obviously way too early to be like, oh, watch out, Saros is going to lose starts to Lankinen, who's literally played, like I said, 4 times. But still, Saros not doing well. How much do the Saros managers need to panic at this point?
Well, I wasn't
You
expecting that
you weren't
frame.
expecting me to ask how if people
Well,
should
no,
be nervous about an 892 save percentage?
well, I think I figured you were just going to be like, do we need to worry about Saros seating search, which I guess is still what you said. And I would say no. Like Saros is still the
It's not
guy.
what I said.
Well, I know.
You have to
Okay.
answer the harder question of does he suck?
No, I don't think UC Saros sucks, but at the same time, when I usually say this, I have some kind of data to back it up. And right now, I only have data that UC Saros sucks. I have a career's worth of data saying UC
Yeah.
Saros doesn't suck. And I guess that's what I'll turn to. It's always weird, right? Like when a player struggles, and when a skater struggles, I can point to why. With goalies, unfortunately, I do not yet, I have not yet learned how or why or like when or where to do that. So UC Saros at 5-on-5, 909 save percentage. That's really bad. Like that's at 5-on-5 only. Usually goalies can be at least 920 if you're a good one. Lankinen's a 954 at 5-on-5, and Saros has actually been slightly better protected than Lankinen too. Saros getting wrecked on the penalty kill, so is Lankinen, but we're talking more about Saros. Saros actually ranks of 35 goalies who've played the most this year at 29th by Delta Fenwick save percentage, which measures how well a goalie is playing against his perceived workload. And another number that really jumps out for Saros, 39% quality starts. That's awful. Like that's bad for anyone. It's especially bad from a guy who has consistently been above 60%, which is really good. Not a lot of goalies can do that for as long as UC Saros has. So look, I can't say why. I did like a little like searching for an answer. No one's really talking about it. Nashville is not like one of the better covered teams. But I don't like the best thing I could find or put out there is that Saros has 2 years left on his contract at $5 million, which is great value for a team who might be looking for a goalie. And like there might, I don't know, I don't know what it's worth when Pierre LeBrun writes an article saying that Saros was almost traded or had received Nashville received a really great offer but turned it down for Saros, and whether or not this is getting instead. I don't know. I'd buy low if you can, especially in a volume setup. I don't know how many more wins. That was the caveat with Saros going into the season, right? We don't know how great Nashville is. So far, they're all right. But I still would be looking more for saves and save percentage from Saros versus goals against average and wins. So Elon, I like him. I'm not gonna get too down on him yet. That's yeah.
He's built up enough goodwill to not be too concerned, but I think it is just another add another data point to like reasons to maybe not draft a goalie super high because they're just not as sure things. And obviously there's some skaters that turn out not to be sure things, but it seems like it happens less often than with goalies. Like Sorokin, we'll talk about later. He also hasn't been as great as people hoped he would be. And meanwhile, okay, Brian, I just thought of this question. I know what your answer is going to be, but like, I think you have to promise you're going to take 3 seconds to think about it. You have to promise you're going to think about it first. I have Cam Talbot right now, who's like one of my best players on my fantasy team. He's like, he plays every game for LA. He basically wins every game. He's like got 9 wins in 13 games, 930 save percentage, like 10 fantasy points a game. It feels like every time he plays, like I can lock it in. If I got an offer right now, Saros for my Talbot, I mean, I feel like I'd have to take it, but I would be so nervous. Like, I'm just curious, like, if you're looking, obviously, just for this season, is there any world where you reject that if you're me? LA is such a better team.
I guess, yeah, there is a world. And that world is if wins really matter to you.
Let's take a couple. 3 points for a win.
Yeah.
Also, like Talbot's just like blowing the doors off with the save percentage. But anyway,
yeah, Talbot is as we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, he's Dubnyking his way. Like, and Dubnyk was like a great goalie to have, right? When he was crushing it in those years with Minnesota, where he wasn't very good, but Minnesota protected him so well, and the team was so good that he won and put up a good save percentage because it was just a bunch of low danger shots that he could handle. And that's still what's happening with Cam Talbot, although he is still having one of the better seasons he's had relative to his expected save percentage of his career. So, Elon, I think that's like, yeah, there is a world. I'm giving you the 3 seconds that you asked for. There is a world where you reject the deal, but I would not. I would go ahead and go for UC Saros because honestly, even while protected, I'm still not sure Cam Talbot is going. Like, my level of faith in him is pretty low. So even though he's been good so far, I might like say, hey, thanks and move on. And I wouldn't regret taking the shot on Saros, but I would regret not taking the shot on Saros if things worked out. Like if I was wrong in either situation, I would be more okay with being wrong having tried for Saros. You're muted.
Okay, fair enough. For what it's worth, Andrea is in the chat here. She's saying, no, 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 in caps. LA is better. Keep Cam Talbot. He's old like me. And Andrea is a recent, correct me if I'm wrong, a recent couple division winner. It's been a couple years since I've won one.
Yeah, who am I to say? Well, so
Anyway,
what would you do? You would take it, right?
I would not smash accept, but I'd
Yeah.
imagine I would think about it and take it. But
You'd ask for like $5 fab.
I'd be really angry about it afterwards every time that Saros had a bad game and Cam Talbot continued to be amazing. Goalies are so hard. That's why my general advice is just don't draft them until late. Like my goalies right now are, because I traded Tristan Jarry, Brian. I've got Cam Talbot, who I got out of free agency. I've got Carter Hart, who I got, I think, the 17th of 18 rounds. And I just this week added Connor Ingram for that. Can we just talk? Okay, it's not the official schedule of the show, but whatever. People don't. It's not as if we gave an agenda at the beginning. Connor Ingram has been so good. He just wins every single game that he plays. I grabbed him for Thursday. It was another gem. Arizona has been like religiously just alternating. It's Ingram, then Vejmelka, like no matter what. And like Vejmelka, if you take a look, is like losing every game. Ingram is winning every game. Like Arizona's not a bad team. Like they could actually maybe take a shot, a wild card playoff spot. I feel like at some point, maybe soon. Like let's say Ingram has another great game on Monday. So I think he's a great ad, by the way, if he's in free agency for Monday alone, because he's just been so great every game. And then I feel like if he wins, doesn't Arizona just have to play him again on Wednesday at this point? Like it's getting ridiculous. Vejmelka just had another bad game on Saturday. I don't know. To me, I think like this is a really good time. And this was was being brought up in my allied chat over on Discord, Team Jordan. A lot of people were suggesting, or at least someone was. I'll check and see who it was when you're answering to give the credit, suggesting that now might be a really good time to grab Ingram, and maybe this alternation is going to be stopping soon. Like you'd think it kind of has to if the coach wants to keep their job.
Yeah, you would think. Okay. No, sorry. Let me take that again. The coach wants to keep their job. Yeah, Elon, like I hear what you're saying. And by the way, I have Connor Ingram on my roster. I've honestly sort of just been adding and dropping him through the season. Every time I see him, I'm going to get 2 games out of him in a week. And it's worked out really well for me. He's 6-1 this season versus Vejmelka's record of 2-6-2. Other comparisons, Ingram has a 75% quality start percentage to Vejmelka's 44%. Ingram at 5-on-5, though, and I think this tells a big part of the story, 923 save percentage versus Vejmelka's 917 save percentage. So they're actually pretty close at what they're doing at 5-on-5. Vejmelka is looking good. Like still, believe it or not, I know the raw save percentage doesn't look that way. Ingram has been better, but Vejmelka is getting blown up on the penalty kill. And so I could see the rotation continuing. I think Vejmelka has like taken this team pretty far before, and I don't know that Ingram is necessarily going to be able to keep up what he's doing if he sees volume. But I do take your point that if they want to win, maybe it's time eventually to flip the switch over to Ingram. Like Arizona is currently in a wild card spot, and that's thanks to Ingram's 6 wins in 7 starts versus Vejmelka's 2 wins in 10 starts. So yeah, I see the point you're making. At 5-on-5, they're actually both pretty respectable. Ingram's been a little better, but also, Elon, if Vejmelka is blowing you up on the penalty kill every game, at some point it is also time to say like, whoa, okay, let's take a seat. So I'm with you on Ingram watch, and I have been for a few weeks, but no break in that rotation yet.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens if Ingram has a good game on Monday. What happens? I think this week could end. Obviously, Ingram has to hold up his end of the deal and actually play well on Monday. So we'll see. But yeah, obviously, also these coaches are not like fantasy managers, and I don't think like. And also, they have to like explain their decisions to the fan base, right? Like, you can't just be like, well, like Vejmelka's actually been similar at even strength, and it's only a short hand. It's like the fans are seeing every time we play Ingram, we win, and every time we play Vejmelka, we lose. Can we please try just as an experiment? Play Ingram more and see if we win more. Like, I feel like it's like, I think sometimes you don't want to get too complicated with it, but we'll see what the Coyotes do. We're not managing that team. Brian, I have one more headline, I guess, an injury here to talk about. Barrett Hayton. We were already on Arizona. I didn't even go so far out of the order of what I had planned. What am I doing here? Anyways, Barrett Hayton's hurt. He like stunk so much. I finally dropped him, and so of course, like I said would happen. I dropped him from my fantasy team, and then he started to heat up. He has 4 points in his last 5 games. He scored a goal in this game where he got injured, but apparently it's not a minor thing. He's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks with a injury. Does it even say what it was? Upper. I'm looking on game day tweets, and the tweets from Craig Morgan are saying upper. So I don't know what happened to him, but it's something that's going to keep him out 4 to 6 weeks. Likely surgery coming. So that's a bummer for him. Stash him if you can. Someone else in my division, very savvy, grabbed him and stashed him in IR. And hopefully when he comes back, he'll be able to keep up this recent streak and not the terrible streak that he started the year with.
Yeah, great moment to stash Barrett Hayton when he's been dropped, and now you can sort of wait and see. Like if you didn't go ahead and pick him up, now you can put him in your IR and see what happens next. Yeah, he had 4 points and 5. Elon, I said the breakout was coming, or not the breakout, but at least the slump buster was coming. So I would love to see a few more games to see if I was actually right about it. But yeah, in the short term, if you can take him for free and just wait to see what happens when he's back in the lineup, then go get yourself some Barrett Hayton.
Yeah. In the meantime, it looks like Travis Boyd was on the top line with Schmaltz and Keller, and Alex Kerfoot got time on the top power play. Those are like the two most boring people to have taken those spots. Like I have no interest in Travis Boyd, regardless of what line he's on. And I also have no interest in Alex Kerfoot, even though he's on the top power play. So what a waste. Like if I'm looking at Arizona players who might be available as free agents, I'm looking right at Lawson Krause. I'm looking right at Matthias Michelli as the clear top two. And then probably I'm going Nick Bjugstad, who's the line mate of Krause and Michelli, before I'm looking at either Boyd or Alex Kerfoot. So that's my opinion.
Agree. Yeah.
Okay. Brian, this has been fun. So that's it. Injuries. I want to come back after the next break. We're going to do a segment called Players Who Suck. And it's not even going to be a question. It's going to be statements. And then you can just, tell us why. But
Cool.
It's going to be fun. We'll be back in just a sec. All right, Brian, we are back listening to Keeping Karlsson. Well, we're recording Keeping Karlsson. The people listening, hopefully you're enjoying the show. And Brian, like I said, I want to talk about some players who suck. And then at the end, maybe we can see if we can find a common thread between them. But first of all, a player who sucks, at least right now, pretty much has for the whole season, Patrick Laine over on Columbus. We've already talked about Johnny Gaudreau and how he was not doing very well, and he's like doing a little better. He's not getting healthy scratched like he was today. Laine, since he's come back from his injury, he had a goal in his first game back, and since then pointless in 4. Only had 2 shots in yesterday's game versus Washington. No shots in the game before that versus Arizona. And he was being benched. By the way, the last game he was benched for a lot of the third and the game before. You're looking at like 12 minutes of ice time these last couple of games. It's been a disaster. Probably it's good that he's been benched. I think to like Marchenko, who was benched earlier in the season, and then he came back and started scoring some goals. I'm hoping that's what's going to happen with Laine. It also is reasonable to like recall that he was injured. Maybe he's still like working his way through the recovery from his injury. I don't know what it is, but Laine freaking stinks. You can't stash a guy in IR when he's healthy scratched, so he's just holding a spot on our roster. Who knows if he'll even be back for the Wednesday game next week. We've been starting to get questions. Should I drop Laine? Like we had someone that asked in our Ask Keeping Karlsson, a really nice feature of our Discord community where you can ask a question in like its own thread instead of like, just a hot tip, by the way, for patrons. We have the Ad Drop Trade channel where a lot of people are just asking for advice questions. And like, if I'm away for the day and I come in, there's like a whole bunch of questions. I'm not going to scroll up forever to find all those questions, but yeah, you could use the Ask Keeping Karlsson. You make your own thread. Anyways, I always answer those. Brian does too. So that's the guaranteed way to get an answer from both of us. But anyway, there was a question just today of should I drop Patrick Laine in my shallow league, and a bunch of free agents were being listed and Nichushkin was there, and I was like, yeah, at this point I'm dropping Laine for Nichushkin. Why not? How if Nichushkin is available and he's been like red hot, we'll talk about him in a little bit, then of course like no one's even gonna probably add Laine, and you'll be able to just drop him and get him back later, maybe if he gets better. But anyways, Brian, what are you making of all of this? Alyssa asked, are we holding Laine? What do you say, pal? is there any chance that this player that you and I both drafted in like the fourth and fifth rounds of our couple divisions is gonna not make us look like clowns?
Yeah, it felt a little risky at the time to take Liney there, but it seemed like a season where Columbus had a chance, right, to break out of the funk they've been in for years now. And at what point does Columbus management take a look in the mirror here and be like, hey, we got Liney, we got Gaudreau, we blew it with a coach hiring, we've blown it with a lot of like player management, and say like, I think it's time to clean house in the front office and find guys who are ready to work with what we've got or send them away. And I don't necessarily fault Pascal Vincent for he's come into a tough situation, right? He replaced Mike Babcock like late into like the preseason and has had little time to work with the team and is basically, it started behind the eight ball, but that's management's fault. And also, if Pascal Vincent like isn't getting the most out of Liney and Gaudreau, I'd say that's his job to play to the strengths of his best players. And like one of the things he's been doing is asking Patrick Liney to play center. And they had such high praise for Liney playing center. And they're like, oh, you know what? You suck. Like, this isn't working anymore. We're benching you. Like you said, Elon Liney didn't even clear 13 minutes in either of the two games leading up to the game that he's been scratched. So it's hard to read on what to expect from Liney because I can tell you his numbers stink. Like, you're right. We're just saying these guys suck and Liney sucks. But it doesn't help. Like, I have no explanation because we don't know what in the world Liney's being asked or allowed to do. There's one piece I'm going to point at one particular zero in Liney's numbers. And there's actually two of them. The first is in power play points column. Liney has 0 power play points. The other one, which I think maybe even be a little more telling, is that Liney has yet to be on the ice for a power play goal at all. He's spent 30 minutes on the ice with the man advantage. 30 minutes. Teams sometimes need like 14 seconds to convert. Liney has been on the ice for 30 minutes, has not seen a power play goal scored while he's on the ice with the man advantage. Columbus has taken 21 shots on the power play. None of them have gone in. 8 of those have been from Liney himself. You would expect like about 4 or 5 goals on those 21 shots based on like team patterns and where they're shooting. No, nothing. And like the Columbus power play seems like mid, like they're not this bad. So I think that explains one reason why Liney's numbers on the whole have been as awful as they have been. But the other piece is that, yeah, he's being asked to like become a different player than the one Columbus acquired or the one Columbus hoped to acquire. And I feel like I don't know, Elon, I'm mad on behalf of Patrick Liney. Like I feel like he has played ball with all that's been asked of him. It's weird to ask Liney to play center. And he did it, and he seemed to have done it well. So is it time to drop? I don't know. We saw Gaudreau starting to get dropped in the cupful over the last little while. We've seen him dropped in a couple leagues. He's 98% rostered now in the cupful. This is Gaudreau. Liney, as far as I know, has yet to be dropped. I'm not about to do that. Would I do it for Nichushkin? I'd drop someone else on my roster for Nichushkin. I wouldn't drop Liney. If someone offered a trade, though, and they wanted Liney for Nichushkin, I think I would. Or if they offered Nichushkin for my Liney, I'd be tempted. Of course, like Nichushkin's fortunes might change once Lehkonen has returned to the lineup. So like that would be the piece I'd want to consider before pulling the trigger on that. But if you told me Lehkonen was out for the season, I think I might just cut my losses on Liney and give up on the upside and go for Nichushkin just because the downside seems so freaking low right now.
Yeah, but I mean that's not reality. Like Lehkonen is not out for the season, so you would have to make the decision. But we'll see if you get that offer. Nichushkin, by the way, like to switch over to Colorado, like Colorado's doing a lot better since, as it's not nice to say, since Lehkonen got injured and Nichushkin got bumped up. Right, there's no longer these like crazy 8 goals against games. So I do wonder if maybe Nichushkin is proving his worth of being like on that top line and on that top power play. But actually, we just got a nomination for Colorado in the chat here of a player to add to our segment of players who suck. So why not? By the way, this chat is a perk of being a patron. You get to join us for the live show. And we had a question from Chris asking, can you nominate, or Chris asking if he's not already part of the segment, I nominate Bowen Byram for players who suck. So yeah, Brian, let's just give the case here for why Bowen, but this is fun actually. I like it. I remember one time we got feedback from a patron like a long time ago that we shouldn't say the word suck. Like it's like not classy or something. But I think it's a lot of fun. So, but anyways, Bowen Byram has definitely sucked. 4 points in 16 games now. Last season, Byram was decent in the games he played. He had 24 points in 42 games for a 47-point pace, similar to his pace the season before. The concern was mostly if Byram can stay healthy, but Byram is healthy. I'd imagine he's playing big minutes, like 20-ish minutes a game, but he just doesn't get any points ever. Hasn't even been shooting that much lately. It's been a while since he's had more than 2 shots in a game. He did have one random 5-shot game on November 9th against Seattle. Yeah, I think he's like, at least with like Line and like Troy Terry, who I'm going to bring up next, these are guys you drafted high, and it's like stressful about whether to drop them or like Brian to trade them. But like, I think Bowen Byram's just a pretty obvious snoozer. Like, get him off your team. Don't even have to think about it twice, right?
Yeah, the only time, and I've been pretty consistent in saying this, the only time to roster Bowen Byram is when Cale Makar is injured. And Cale Makar, I mean, touch wood, is healthy at the moment. So yeah, I don't think there's really any reason to have Bowen Byram unless you're in like a really deep league and you just want to have like you want to have him just in case. Like you can afford to burn a roster spot on the guy who's gonna who's gonna step in if like Makar's been injured enough to think, yeah, like this could happen, and you could save yourself a move or a rush to the free agency wire if and when Makar gets injured. But yes, no, there's no reason. Like Bowen Byram managers are snoozing if you're looking for anything for him this year and while Makar is healthy.
Yeah. By the way, Brian, I think it was on the last show that we were saying that Devon Taves is maybe like not as good as we hoped. That was wrong. I should not have said that because my opponent this week has Devon Taves, and I clearly anti-jinxed him into having
Mine
a huge
too.
weeks. Man, like he's got 5 points now in his last 3 games. He had a couple multi-point games in a row, 5 shots in Saturday's game versus Dallas. So he's not bad. He's very good, and I'm really mad that I even said
Yeah,
it and brought that into the world.
I stuck on the Devon Taves is good train like through a season and like plus. And I finally hopped off last week and was like, fine, you know what? He's not living up to all the things I've said about him. And I'm ready to just like it's now been long enough that he's failed me. And there he goes. So yeah, way to go, Devon Taves. Nice little run you're on. Love that 5-shot game against Dallas on Saturday night.
Yeah. Speaking of 5-shot games, Nichushkin, the guy we were just talking about, two in a row. Before that, he had 2 4-shot games in a row. So Nichushkin is rolling. 5 points in his last 3. Yeah, you could clearly see a demarcation point of like Lehkonen out of the lineup, and then Nichushkin stepping up big time, and Colorado looking pretty good. I guess what is it? 3 wins in a row now? Oh no, yeah, they won 6-3 against Dallas. They won 8-2 against Anaheim. They won 5-1 against Seattle. They're starting to stomp teams like they did last year. I wonder if Nichushkin is a part of that. But anyway, next player who sucks, Brian, it's Troy Terry. Man, this guy sucks. And I was so excited about drafting him because Anaheim has that great off day schedule. So it's like a little bonus to get like a 65-ish point guy, like upside for more, like, excited about, Anaheim, like Mason McTavish stepping up, like Leo Carlsson coming in, like seemed like it was going to be great. It's getting rough. Okay. I need to know your opinion. So we're pointless in 3 now for Troy Terry. Overall in the season, actually, it's 12 points in 18 games. So maybe it's just like recency that's getting to me. It's been since November 7th. I'm counting 7 games and only 2 assists. A lot of 0-1 shot games there, which are not fun. And also, did you see the lines that Anaheim is rolling out today? Not good. No bueno. Vetrano, Leo Carlsson, and Strome. And then Jones, McTavish, Killorn. If McTavish is on a line, like that's the second line. Like McTavish is not a bottom sixer. So that means Troy Terry, Henrik Silverberg. I think that's the third line.
Looks like the third line or top 9, whatever. Either
whatever.
way. Yeah, it's not great.
And also, if you look at the power play, at least today, like, okay, so right now Anaheim is losing 2-0 to St. Louis. Okay, so whatever. So I guess it's too early to tell. But I'm seeing that Troy Terry does not have as much power play time as Ryan Strome. I don't know. Maybe it's just the second power play got more time. So we don't need to read into that. But overall, how worried should these Troy Terry managers be, like myself?
Worried-ish. Yeah, like this feels like another coach wants to teach situation, kind of like Patrick Laine, where they're trying, like the Ducks are trying to take the next step, right? And they've got a new coach and new GM want to be like, hey, this is the player, trust us. This is the player you need to be a leader on our team as we become like a playoff team. And so I feel like these lessons are being learned the hard way. Terry's down 2 minutes a night at 5-on-5. He does still look okay overall. And like variance is coming for Troy Terry. Bad shooting percentage, bad on ice shooting percentage, bad points participation rate. Of course, the deployment doesn't help now that Terry, like you mentioned, Elon, the power play situation, it might be like a 1A, 1B instead of him being like straight up on power play 2. But either way, that's worse than the power play 1 that Terry seemed to be on for most of the season. So that's not great. I do still believe in Troy Terry, though. I'm gonna like there's a bit of a theme running through some of our disappointing players tonight, and that's that they all are struggling on the power play. Troy Terry has just 3 power play points in 17 games. Those 3 power play points have come on 6 power play goals scored while Troy Terry's been on the ice. But Anaheim overall is struggling on the power play. They've actually converted on 12 of their 59 opportunities, but they have the worst power play shooting percentage in the league at 10%. So Anaheim has deserved to do better than they have so far. And Troy Terry on the top unit should have also picked up a few more points by this point too. So I will still say like this is, like I'm rolling towards the don't worry, he's going to be okay. But also this deployment situation, the minutes down and the line shakeup is very flaggy. And if you are trying to get out, like get away from Troy Terry, if you were holding on, being like, oh yeah, things will get better. Yeah, I feel like I would be looking like, and you were going to hold the course. This would be a reason for you to reassess that.
All right, Brian, I'll throw a comparison at you.
Yeah.
Let's say you have an offer. You want to stick with the Ducks. You like the off-day schedule. Would you trade Troy Terry if you could? You probably can't. But let's say you could. But this is the kind of thing you would probably say you wouldn't do, even though most people would do. Frank Vatrano, the hottest Anaheim Duck. He's crushing it, up to 17 points in 18 games. Like your boy Paterka taking all those shots. What's Vatrano up to now? Like 3.3 shots per game. He's had a couple hat tricks. Is it only 2 hat tricks? Yeah, 2 hat tricks and a 2-goal game. Lots of 1-goal games in there also. So do you think at this point he's getting like the better deployment, at least today? He's on the top line and on the top power play. Do we like Vatrano over Terry at this point, or do you think long-term Terry still is the better option?
In this exact moment, yeah, I like Vatrano over Terry. Like, but that's in this exact moment. Vatrano's living his best life. All right, and part of that is like variance, right? His on ice shooting percentage is a little high at 12%. Vatrano's also scored 5 times on 11 power play shots, so he's shooting 20% on the season thanks to those power play goals that he's scoring on like 45% of the shots he takes. So that'll probably cool, but still. 3.5 shots per game from Vatrano. Like, yeah, it is like a Paterka situation. Could be rosterable all year if he keeps up his 5-on-5 scoring. And still, like, I see that Vatrano, the way the Ducks are deploying their power plays, he could still pace for like somewhere between power play 1 and power play 2 point production. So like 15-ish power play points for Vatrano. And could be rosterable the rest of the way. Like, I don't think he's your bottom end streamer the way he has been in past years, where you grab him, you say thanks very much if he helps you for a game or two, and then like go. Rest of season, yeah, give me Troy Terry. But at this moment, I would feel better with Vatrano on my roster. Elon, if you have Terry, if the Vatrano manager sent you an offer, would you take it?
Send it to me. I'm gonna seriously consider it. That's for
okay.
Sure.
So that's like, it's not a yes, but it's I'm trying to help Trev out for the accountability, our accountability czar, to try and get you to position a take on this.
Yeah. No. Okay. Fine. I'll keep Troy Terry, I guess. But again, it sucks. It's kind of like the one with if I got offered Saros for Talbot. That one, I guess I would take and then hate myself. Here, I would pass and hate myself. So either way, you're never happy when you play.
It's a lose-lose. I'm so sorry.
All right, Brad, I got one more for you. This should be a quick conversation, and then we'll end part 1 of this show. This could actually be like a 1-minute conversation. Rickard Rakell sucks. Okay, he is having the worst season. I don't understand how this guy went from being such a stud last year, 60 points, 28 goals. He now has 0 goals, 4 assists in 17 games. Pittsburgh has switched up the lines, or actually they did for a game. I guess I'm seeing today against Vegas, they did put Raquel back with Malkin and Riley Smith. Didn't matter. Didn't do anything. He sucks.
He's
He
been on the
stinks.
second power play since the 6th game of the season. And Raquel has just 1 power play point in 17 games. That's even worse than we'd expect from the second unit. He's also, his 5-on-5 line is less effective. But Raquel, honestly, Elon, he is like, okay, his deployment is bad enough that you shouldn't care. Okay, I want to preface it this way. Like, nothing I say means you should go get Raquel. But I will at least say that Raquel is getting worse than he deserves. Okay, 4 points in 17 games. He should do better. He's getting hammered by bad variants everywhere you look. And Raquel has 0 goals on 44 shots this season. That tells a chunk of the story. 30% points participation, I think, tells the rest. In fact, Raquel right now is in the lead for the Duncan Keith Memorial Award. Raquel has the most shots on goal this year without scoring a goal. You know, even Johnny Gaudreau has the same number of shots as Raquel. Raquel ranks 76th in the league in total shots, all situations. Gaudreau has like the same number and 2 goals. So how rough does your season have to be struggling more than Johnny Gaudreau? Most guys who have at least as many shots as Raquel have like 4 goals or more by now.
Yeah,
So,
that's fair. If I could just interrupt for a sec though, like a lot of those shots came early in the season. I think his confidence is down. I don't know. If you look recently, there's 1 4-shot game against Carolina. Aside from that, it's mostly 0 1s and 2s. Like for a little while. I think he's like starting to pass because he knows his shots aren't going to go in. It's not looking okay. How about this, Brian?
Squeezing the stick too tight. Less than 15 minutes. His last 2 games also. Like that's a factor too. Things are just 4 of his last 5 games actually. Sorry, I'm realizing Raquel has played less than 15 minutes.
Here's what I think you do. This is the plan. Raquel's been dropped in my league. I'm going to give away my strategy because whatever. I'm losing anyways. Raquel's been dropped. I'm not interested. I'm not adding him. No one else is clearly. He was on waivers. I was like really curious to see like if someone was going to claim him when he was dropped. And then it was like a day that Yahoo like glitched out and didn't process their waivers. And it was like 8 a.m. and I woke up and I was like, oh, no one grabbed Raquel. And then I realized like waivers just hadn't processed yet. But eventually they did process. No one grabbed him. I think like once he scores a goal, then I might grab him for the next game. Because I wonder if it is like a confidence thing at this point. And maybe like, you know, that could be like a floodgates kind of thing. Not like a floodgates, but at least like a trickle, like something. I think like I don't think that first goal is coming anytime soon, but when it does come, I think it'll be followed by more, if you know what I mean.
I will. I like, so you're saying Raquel will go from what, a 20-point pace to like a 45-point pace.
Like I could see a minor hot streak happening, but only once he scores his first goal. And I don't know when that's going to happen. So I'm just saying, like, put him on your watch list. When he scores a goal, I'll bet you he'll score a goal in his next game. That's like, put that on accountability. I think that'll happen.
Okay, I'll frame it this way too. Raquel is what might be what Frank Vetrano has been in past years.
Okay, we'll see.
Okay,
man, what a disappointment. People probably drafted him pretty high. Okay, Brian, that's it. We're done with part 1. We got a lot to get to for part 2. We asked the patrons if they had any questions they want us to tackle. We got a bunch of those, and I've got some hot and cold streaks. So it's gonna be a really fun second half of the show. Hope everyone has been enjoying it. If you're like, wait a minute, it's over. How do I get the second half? Well, then clearly you're not doing podcasts right, because you should already be subscribed to the podcast and you should have part 2 already there. So please do us the kindness of subscribing to Keeping Karlsson, getting those shows auto downloaded. And then you should already have the app. Hope you like part 1. And Brian, I guess no final words from you. So we'll see you all on the other side. Bye-bye. All right, let's go. The time is 9:10 p.m. Sunday, November 19th. It's been a bit of a quiet night for fantasy hockey. The Penguins shut out the Golden Knights. Malkin got an empty netter. Aside from that, it was a couple schmoles. Buffalo and Chicago tied 2-2. And Brian and I are about to also do part 2 of this episode of Keeping Karlsson. That's a joke for those of you listening. Hope you enjoyed that. Yes, Brian, here we are. We've covered our main news items. We've talked about players who suck. And now it's time to answer some patron questions. Having a blast so far. Totally forgotten about the fact I'm not even gonna say what I've forgotten about. The stuff I said at the start, distant
Yeah.
memory.
I think I was just realizing like at the end of the last part, I'm like, wow, the tenor of our show has really changed. Like early days keeping Karlsson was like, we're winning all our pools. Like, listen to us. Like we're gonna help you. It's easy.
You know what the
And
problem is?
the problem is we play in like a cupful.
Yeah, like I'm actually in
Yeah.
2 other leagues and I'm crushing both of them.
Yeah.
I'm 6-0 in my league with Victor. I haven't lost a matchup in my other dynasty. It's like but I don't care about those. Like I care about them, but like I care so much more about this one league that's not for any money and it's driving me crazy.
Please join the Cupful, kkupfl.com if you want to
A
have
nervous breakdown.
yeah, it's really good for that. Uh yeah, we're losing, but we're losing in the best league in the world. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the new tenor of the show.
Yeah. Just make sure if you sign up for a couple, you're also still in your like home league where you can dominate and feel good about yourself.
Yes, do not ditch all your leagues for Cupful. Bad idea.
All right. So, Brian, like I said before, we have some questions from the patrons. I'm going to start with Chris S., who asked, do we still believe in McCann? I didn't want to put McCann in the players who suck section, though I'm sure some of his managers might be thinking that he belongs there or will belong there soon. Like, it's not like Troy Terry or Patrick Laine bad recently, but like we're looking at 1 point in 8 games for McCann. He had a decent start to the season, but now we're down to 10 points in 19 games. Jared McCann has just really slowed down. It's a bit of a bummer. The shots on goal are kind of there, kind of not. Like he had 2 straight 4-shot games, but that was sandwiched in between a 0 and a 1-shot game. So it's not like the sure thing to at least get you shots, if nothing else. And like Seattle is just, yeah, just they're a team we always talk about. We're like, yeah, they're like rolling their lines so evenly, like everyone just takes turns. But it was like last year was like, except for Jared McCann, he was a old reliable. At this point, like to frame a question to you, Brian, I mentioned that I had Ellie Tolvanen as on Matchup Maximizer last week as my streamer of the week, and I think he was a solid hit. I've got him on my team. I'm planning on holding him. Like I'm not just going to drop him for next week. He's on a little point streak, up to 12 points in 19 games. The nice thing about Tolvanen also is he's been taking shots and he gets a lot of hits. Sometimes he had 6 hits in his last game. I probably would accept a McCann for Tolvanen offer, but I wouldn't be like excited about it. Like I'm pretty stoked to have Tolvanen over McCann, which just goes to show you my current feeling about Jared McCann and how I'm not like I don't really believe in him. I believe in him to like he'll go hot for a little bit, but I don't think he's going to be incredible.
Yeah, he like McCann and Andre Burakovsky, I feel like we're the two Kraken players that are prepared to believe in a little more than the rest. And Burakovsky's let us down, and now McCann is doing it too. Basically
I'll
saying
throw it out there that I like Dunn and Beniers.
okay. Oh, yeah. Like I done. I'll give you Beniers. Like I believe in long term, and I believe in his talent, but in terms of being like consistently great for
Yeah, that's
fantasy
fair.
production, I don't know. He's not someone
Yeah.
I really want on my roster. And McCann last season in Seattle, like did come into his own. All right, he did take a little step up over where he'd ever been in his career before that, and that was his age 26 season. And he got 40 goals, right? I don't want to bury the lead here. 40 goals for Jared McCann. But I can tell you where those goals came from. They came from a shooting percentage at 5-on-5 that he'd never had before, and that I don't expect him to have again. Overall, McCann shot 19% last season. He's generally shot, I don't know, like I guess he's been all over the place in his career, like really low lows, and then like 13, 14% the rest of the time. So honestly, I think that if we just take away like 10 or 15 of those goals, we'll find where Jared McCann lands. I think it's still higher than his first 55-point pace season that he put up in Seattle, but I think it will be decidedly closer to that than it would be McCann's 73-point pace last year, powered by that shooting percentage and those 40 goals he had. Like ironically, or I don't know if it's ironic actually, but McCann has just 3 assists this year and 7 goals. So if he's not scoring, no one else really is. And I think that might be part of the problem for what's happening in Seattle for McCann. But again, even with some regression in like the good sense, McCann still like I can't really see him exceeding like 55 points by a whole lot.
Okay, yeah, as I'm with you. So I think the answer is no, Chris. Like we believe in him to be okay, but not like last year. Next up, Mr. Peanut Butter, who's in my division, wanted us to do a Sorokin deep dive. He's been involved in a few trades, recently. Yeah, Ilya Sorokin is like not bad. It's not like what's going on with UC Saros. Like Sorokin's looking good. Dish. It's a 907 save percentage, like a far cry, of course, from his 924, 925 from the last couple seasons. Also, like Varlamov's been getting in like a decent number of games. Like recently, it's like kind of rare for Sorokin to get two in a row. Recently, he did for to play Vancouver and Edmonton. That was because it was a back to back. Could have gone the other way. But yeah, also if you look at the game log, it's just ugly lately. Like in the last 6 games, Sorokin's led in 4 goals in 5 of them. The other one he's led in 3. So not going great. Like he's not winning. Like, Islanders aren't a big scoring team. They generally win games when Sorokin steals the games for them. So yeah, even just looking now at total cupful points for goalies, Sorokin is not in the top 10, or he's just barely scratching the top 10. So yeah, is this, I guess, like Saros, is he someone that you should be like right now, like rushing to try to buy for as while you can get him cheap, or is there reasons to be a little bit concerned that Sorokin maybe won't be as good as he was in previous years? And maybe, I guess the obvious question then is Saros versus Sorokin versus Cam Talbot.
Okay. I'm still going Sorokin. I am. And I'm even more confident in Sorokin being okay. Just because at 5-on-5, he has still been like incredible. All right. He's been a 938 goalie. Varlamov's been better, 942, but Sorokin's still like basically at the top of the table in 5-on-5 save percentage, which is like the reason I use it for anybody who's not familiar is that it's the most common game state, right? Like the most of the game is played at 5-on-5. Some of it is played on the power play, so like who even cares? And then some is shorthanded. And by the way, that shorthanded piece, Sorokin has been awful, awful. A 771 save percentage on the penalty kill. Usually you can expect a goalie to be like, I don't know, the range is like 840 to 880, but Sorokin has just been awful. And that's one of the reasons that Sorokin is really struggling this season in his like overall numbers. Sorokin also has, like Saros, a 46%, not like Saros, but like it's bad. It's a bad quality start percentage. And the reason for those bad quality starts is because of those shorthanded performances that Sorokin's putting up. So, Varlamov has been amazing, by the way. I don't know if that means he's going to steal starts. Like at most, it's going to be like every other game, but Sorokin's still the guy. And I think I would go for Sorokin just with the caveat that, yeah, I part of me does wonder if for as long as Sorokin is finding his game and Varlamov is doing so well, that maybe like somehow they end up trading off again. That would be my number one concern about acquiring Sorokin. But I also believe enough in Sorokin and I guess not enough in Varlamov. Like I'm not sure whether or not to believe in Varlamov at this point. But yeah, I that Sorokin will eventually be the volume guy again the rest of the season. But if I had to choose Elon, I would go Saros. And then Sorokin or Talbot. I don't know, because you've got
Rubbing his
Talbot's
eyes.
volume. And I'm really concerned about the 50-50 split happening on Long Island. Like since I'm looking at the game logs, since we're looking back a month, almost a month now, since the 24th and 26th of October, Sorokin has played twice in a row, exactly once, and he's been trading off with Varlamov all the rest. So not a volume. So in a rates, like if you're just looking for rates, that would make it easier to go with Sorokin. But if you're looking for volume, yeah, you're not getting what you paid for, and I can't be certain that you will. So you know what, Elon, this is crazy. In a volume league like the Cupful, I think I'm gonna go Saros, Talbot, Sorokin.
Damn. Okay. Try to trade Sorokin now if you believe in what Brian is saying. See if you can get Talbot. Which, by the
What
way,
do
I
you
just
think?
ranked. I just took a look, by the way, Brian, of I'm just gonna ignore your question and say that I ranked all the goalies by total points. And Talbot's at the top right now of all goalies in Cupful.
You're brilliant.
I don't know. I don't know. What do I think? I'll agree with you. I don't know. Yeah, Saros, Talbot, Sorokin. I'm with you because I'm just going to go for the guy that I think is going to play a lot of games. And yeah, I'm not. I really think that Saros is just such an incredible goalie. I'm just going to assume that it's just been a weird start. Okay. Next up, let's go to Munchie Mexican, who asked, Seth Jones is cold. Should he swap with Sean Walker? So since he asked that, I think Seth Jones did get a point in Chicago's game yesterday. Let's see. Let me bring up his numbers here. But I know that Seth Jones overall has had not a great season. He's up to now 7 assists in 16 games, no goals. Yeah, he did have an assist in the game versus Nashville, where Nashville won 4-2 today. So right now this game is still going, Buffalo and Chicago. And yeah, so far still nothing for Seth Jones. Meanwhile, this guy Sean Walker. So we're gonna just cover a couple teams here at once. On Philly. Like we've talked about Sanheim like a lot, and for good reason. Like he's had this like huge breakout season, but I think we've been a little bit quiet or too quiet about Sean Walker, who came from LA, and he's having himself a season. He's actually right now on a huge streak, 6 points in his last 4 games, bringing up to 10 points in 18 games. And this isn't just like a random streak from like a nobody, like 10-minute a game defenseman. Like Sean Walker's been playing like 22, 23 minutes in a lot of games. He's taking some shots. You know, if you look at the total shots on the season, 32 shots. It's almost 2 shots per game, which is not too bad for a defenseman. He also blocks a decent amount, hits a decent amount. I think this Sean Walker is someone that if you need D, maybe in Cupful, he's someone to start taking a look at. So yeah, compare him to Seth Jones, who's not doing anything. So I think it's an interesting question.
It's an interesting question, and I'll grant it. And like that, so but I don't think it's like a drop Seth Jones for Walker sort of thing. I think it's like Walker makes a good streamer. I wonder if he's like in like the Dmitry Orlov vein where the peripherals will always be good, and then occasionally he'll get a few points and make you think that he's, anything more than a 20, 25-point player, which I think ultimately is what Sean Walker is. Maybe he's a 30-point player, all right, based on his career history, but he is playing more this year than he ever has before. He's picked up, like, Elon, I bet you would never know. I don't know who would know. We would know. Now everyone listening knows that Sean Walker has 2 shorthanded goals this season. That's amazing, right?
That's worth a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's worth a lot. And it also like is just another signal to me that like he's not going to score 2 shorthanded goals. He has 3 shorthanded points too. He's not going to score. So right now he's pacing for like 10 shorthanded goals or thereabout. So that's not going to happen for Sean Walker. But I think the peripherals will still be there and be worthwhile. And I think maybe the separate question is, do you drop Seth Jones because his production has been just under half a point per game? It's really tempting is my answer. But like his peripherals are good too. Like he has some like really high block games, Seth Jones. And I don't think I'd want to give those up. And like the shots aren't crazy, but they're good enough. There's like 2 per game, about a hit per game. And Seth Jones wasn't doing like his blocks sort of seem to come and go, right? The one place that I'd hope Seth Jones can do better is on the power play, just a single power play point so far, despite being the top power play quarterback. I'm just checking the game log almost, well, yeah, every game this season. So I would expect Seth Jones to have a little more power play success. But then again, that's saying that I expect the Chicago Blackhawks to have a little more power play success. And I can't be like 100% confident on that front either. So I'm just going to, I'm going to say that Seth Jones, I would keep over Sean Walker, but I would see if I can find a way to stream in Sean Walker while he's hot, because the peripheral floor is pretty nice while he's there.
I see. Okay. But Seth Jones, at the end of the day, like, there's no reason to
He's
expect
not like
he's not going to get like 50 points. Like I think a lot of people were hoping at the start of the year. Like we're looking at maybe like 40 points.
Well, I mean,
nice.
if you right now he's on a 36-point pace, and if we would expect at least 15 points, Elon, from the power play based on quarterbacking it all season long, then that would take him to 50 points. So I think 50 points is reasonable, especially with Bedard in the picture. I wouldn't have necessarily said the same thing last year, and sure enough, Jones only had 12 power play points in 72 games, but I don't think 15 more power play points over the remaining 66 games, like not even one power play point every 4 games. I think that's pretty reasonable.
Okay, mark that down, Trev. We'll see how that turns out for Seth Jones. I'm skeptical, but I'd love it for him. I have him in one of my leagues. I like him. I like the spot he's in. Speaking of though, guys in Chicago, the main breakout right now that we need to talk about, if we haven't already enough, is Philip Kurashev. Had a really slow start, but he's gotten on the line with Bedard, and all of a sudden, Kurashev is turning into someone that I think you got to really take a close look at. It looks like today they've really been switching around their lines a lot. Today it's Reichel with Bedard and Kurashev. It was Foligno there for a while. But yeah, that's a really good spot for both Reichel and Khrushchev, of course, because Bedard is really looking tremendous. And yeah, we've got a goal and an assist so far today for Khrushchev. This game isn't even over yet. He also had himself a goal in the previous game versus Nashville. We're up to 4 points in his last three. There's also but it's not just the last three. Like overall in the season now, remember he started late. We're up to now 10 points in 10 games. So I'm not going to bother you with like saying like is Khrushchev a point per game guy, but if he's available and like Chicago has a good schedule, I think it's high time to get on the Khrushchev train and see how long this ride lasts.
Yeah, go for it. Just like I'll only couch it by saying you said he's up to 10 points in 10 games, which is true. Khrushchev is also up to 11 shots in 10 games, which is pretty painful, right? He's taken two in each of his last two games, which is like miles above where he was before that. So good on Philip Khrushchev. You keep on taking those two shots a game and scoring on one of them. But as long as he continues to be exposed to Bedard at 5-on-5, a nice stream, and not someone I'm going like too far out of my way to get because he is not on the top power play unit.
Okay, Brian, next up, 86 the Waffle. Actually, no, wait, let me do an ad break. All right, Brian, we still got some more patron questions to get to. We're going to go and talk about Rupe Hintz in just a sec, but we'll take a quick break first. We'll be back in very soon. We'll be back very soon. All right, as promised, we're back. Of course, you probably even skipped the ad if there was one. So for you, it was instantaneous. Now you're probably thinking, well, why are you talking now? Like, wait, the whole point of skipping the ad was to get to the content. Fine. Here we are. 86 the Waffle asked yesterday. He didn't even officially ask for the podcast, but I threw this in. He was deciding whether to sit Hintz yesterday versus Kadri. And he, like, his gut said to sit Hintz, but he sat Kadri instead. And he felt really bad about it because Hintz did nothing and Kadri had a good game. And then the quote that he wrote was, he's not the auto start he once was this season. Curious about his underlying numbers. He's bumming me out. We're talking about Rope Hintz here. So yeah, Brian Hintz at this point, yeah, I wasn't going to obviously put him in the does he suck section, but with his pointless game yesterday versus Colorado, we're up to now 13 points in 15 games overall, a 71 point pace. So yeah, down from his like over point per game last year. Not crazy, but if you just look recently, only 2 points in his last 6 games. Also, Hintz only 4 shots over his last 3. So it might just be a recent. Looks to me like just a cold streak. But what do you think?
I'm with you. This is just a cold streak. Like I see like maybe he's down a point or two from the power play that Hintz should have had that he doesn't. And last year also like I'm open to the fact that point per game plus pace might have been like a touch of an overperformance. He shot 20% on his way to 37 goals. But really under the hood, Hintz looks very similar aside from like he's down a minute of ice time per night, which could be the difference between 82 points and 72 points. But I'm with you. Just a cold streak. If you're freaking out, don't worry. Hintz is going to be back.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, as long as he's on the top line, top power play. Though I guess a lot of people are bothered about also Jason Robertson, who's also there, and they used even more draft capital to get J Rob. So I guess we could also do a quick check in on him. I think people are starting to feel a little bit better, right? 5 points now in his last 3 games. Had a 3-point game against Minnesota. We're up to 15 points and 16 overall. So slowly but surely inching back above point per game. I think it won't be too long. I don't know if he's going to get all the way up to the 109 point pace from last year, but if he takes 7 shots like he did against Arizona a couple games ago, that'll obviously help. So we never raised any alarm bells about J Rob, right? We said he'll be fine.
No, I think early on when we saw that he wasn't doing great, we did raise the fact that he was shooting less and he was shooting less dangerously. And like he just didn't seem like his usual threatening self. And like largely, I mean, he went a long time. He's on the season in 16 games. Robertson has only had 4 more shots 4 times, which isn't like what we saw from last season, right? Where Robertson averaged just shy of 4 shots per game. But now with the shot, like he had 12 shots over 2 games. And I thought, okay, maybe Robertson's back from those, and then followed that up with 2 shots against Colorado, which I'm hoping is just a blip on the way to Robertson, like being his fully recovered self. So something has been a little off with Robertson. I haven't seen an explanation as to what it is, but I would love to see the shooting volume really pick up by now and see him average at least 3 shots per game from here on out, if not 4. which he's going to need to continue like putting up 3s and 4s on the score sheet to do. If I keep seeing like, honestly, even 2s and 3s, I'm still going to be thinking that maybe I can't quite expect the 109 points that he put up last season.
Right, that's fair. So yeah, the 7 and 5 that he had recently were good. The 2 versus Colorado, not as good, but he did pick up an assist at least for what it's worth. The hottest guys right now in Dallas are actually Matt Duchene and Tyler Seguin. It's been a long time since Dallas has had like another line that you're interested in fantasy. But yeah, and like I don't want to disrespect Tyler Seguin, but from what we've seen over these past couple of years, I'm going to give the credit to Duchene here. Like that, all of a sudden Duchene's hot and Sagan's going along with him. We've got 9 points in his last 5 for Duchene. Sagan now 6 in his last 3. So yeah, 3 multi-point games in a row for Sagan. Yeah, going into next week, I'm interested in either of these guys if they're out there. And I don't know how long it'll last. I don't know. For me, it's like really hard to believe in a non-top line in Dallas just because it's been so long. But proof's in the pudding so far.
Yeah, well, I mean, the proof is in a high shooting percentage, actually. Like Sagan's shooting 21% himself. Duchene has an on-ice shooting percentage at 5-on-5 of 18%. But I will say that explains fully what Sagan's doing. I got to give some credit to Matt Duchene for what he's stepped up to do.
That's what I'm saying.
Like he's playing like a lesser role at 5-on-5, which I mean, I guess in Nashville he was kind of playing like a lesser-ish role, but now he's down in ice time 90 seconds a night at 5-on-5. But Duchene, I don't know if it's all related, but his numbers, like his underlying numbers, look the best he's ever had at 5-on-5, which is amazing. And that said, I don't think like right now Duchene's on a high 70s point pace. I don't think he can keep that up with 5-on-5 alone. Like he's not on the top power play. And I mentioned the Stars, including Tyler Seguin, are shooting a little too successfully at 5-on-5, but I'm not writing off the possibility that Duchene is a hold from line 2, power play 2, which, we've mentioned a couple guys. We've mentioned Peterka, who could do that too. Maybe Vetrano is another candidate. So Duchene is, I mean, it's funny to say Matt Duchene is in that conversation, but he's in that conversation now, and he certainly wasn't, in my mind, going into the season.
Yeah, I wish I drafted him. Okay, next up. So this is a guy we covered last week, but Downey said, what do you make of the JVR resurgence? Is he the real deal again, or is he just lucky and cherry picking? Especially interesting now going into a week where I made JVR. Well, I was actually surprised. I was looking at the schedules when I was doing Matchup Maximizer. I was like, Boston's got a good schedule. I was like, JVR would be great, but obviously he's not available. Then I looked, he's still actually available in a lot of leagues, which I'm surprised by because he's been good like all season long. So I made JVR like my top streamer, but with the caveat that like I'm surprised he's available, and if he's not, then I went with Connor Zary on Calgary. But yeah, JVR, he's keeping that hot streak up since we talked about him last. He scored a goal versus Montreal yesterday, up to 12 points in 16 games. Yeah, Brian, I don't know. So I guess the official question from Downey here is he the real deal again, or is it just luck and cherry picking?
No, I'm gonna say that I think, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? James Van Riemsdyk is sustainable at 60 points from what I'm seeing. Good for him. It's fun. Yeah.
All right. Andrea said, what to do with Knies, please? And that was before today's game, which was at 8 a.m. of Montreal. It's over in Sweden. William Nylander is a total rock star. I'd imagine he's having the best time. He probably had the most fun he's ever had. Like he's having an incredible season. He's already having fun taking the subway to the game in Toronto. Then he goes to his home country to totally destroys. Like I can't say enough about William Nylander. But yeah, Knies, not playing with him actually. He's playing with Matthews and Marner. But yeah, scored a goal today. And I'd imagine the answer is to expect Knies to somewhat continue what he's been doing, right? Like at the end of the day, we're looking at a guy who is a high pedigree prospect. He's playing on the top line. He's got 9 points in 17 games overall, which is a 43-point pace. He's, had a few goals recently, like 3 goals in his last 6 games and a couple of assists. I mean, yeah, I think what we're seeing is like he doesn't take a lot of shots. I'll say that right now for you, Brian, but he's on the top line. He's a high pedigree guy. I like him if you can fit him in. I don't think he's like crazy amazing, but he's okay. I would take Connor Zary. Next, we'll talk about Zary just because I keep mentioning him.
Love Connor Zary. This is the Connor Zary show. But yeah, Matthew Knies. Honestly, I think maybe the comp I'll make is like Alex Kerfoot, and I know that's not exciting, but this is a guy who like points occasionally, doesn't shoot a whole lot. Like those 3 goals have come on 8 shots over 6 games, and aside from that, Knies just has 2 assists. So I you don't need to make Matthew Nyes a priority. Like if you already have him and it costs you nothing to hold on for another game that he'll fit in your lineup and it makes sense schedule wise, sure, go for it. But I don't think like I would be looking to swap him out for the next hot thing because I don't know that Nyes is going to be he's not someone you have to hold on to because you think he's going to be rosterable long term. It's basically a game at a time. Is he the best option you have for the next game? If he is, great. If he isn't, let him go.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that's how I would play it. I think there is a chance that like he improves, like he shoots more. Like he's
For
just so
sure.
young. He's on the top line, but also it's like, why do you need to shoot when you're playing with Matthews and Marner? Maybe you are
That
better off
too.
passing, but he is also scoring goals, right? So maybe the fact that and I know it's like crazy high shooting percentage, like he scored a goal on his only shot in this game, but also maybe you get more confidence, like the opposite of Raquel, right? You know, maybe he'll start shooting more once he realizes that, oh, when I shoot, I actually sometimes score goals. Maybe I should do that again. And so who knows what will happen with a 21-year-old. But yeah, so I'll just mention it's not a patron question, but it's an Elon question to you, Brian. I'm into Connor Zary. I added him. I like Calgary's schedule next week. They play Monday and Saturday, up to 8 points in 8 games now since he's been called up. You can't ask for better deployment, I don't think. I guess I'll let you speak to that. But Zari's been playing at even strength with Kadri and a player named Pospisil, who I'll ask you about in just a second. Zari's also been on the top power play with actually in the yesterday's game against the Islanders, it was Hannafin, not Rasmus Anderson. So that's something to consider. But yeah, Zari, Huberdeau, Lindholm, and Kadri. So Zari's there with, I think, the 3 best players. I think we do still need to call Huberdeau one of the best players. He's starting to pick it up a little bit. Good for him. But yeah, he got an assist. But yeah, Lindholm and Kadri, Zari. It's a great spot. He's got 8 points in 8 games. Like, it's like everything I'm saying like makes me think he's good and you should have him, right? Point per game, top line or whatever, top 6, top power play, like high pedigree prospect, higher pedigree even than Matthew Nyes if you look at where they were drafted. So I'm into him, but tell me if I shouldn't be.
No, I'm into him too. I like Connor Zary. I like his schedule, of course, coming up. I love all you've said about him being a streamer. And don't look now, but Calgary is scoring goals. They have 26 goals in their last 7 games. That's almost 4 goals a game going back to the start of November. They've scored 22 times on 230 shots. So like that's a like what is that? It's just around a 10% shooting percentage for the team, which is like not so unsustainable either. And I wonder if Calgary is finding a way to turn the corner. And actually, with all that scoring, Elon, they have just 1 power play goal in 18 opportunities over the last 7 games. So like that's sad, and maybe that's why we've seen Hannafin come onto the unit and Anderson leave. But it didn't work. Calgary's been without a power play goal since November 4th. They are over their last 16 opportunities. So even when those goals start coming, we might see more. So anybody who's been waiting on Calgary to start scoring to be able to pick up some points, you might be in luck. And Connor Zary with Kadri seems to be in a pretty good place.
Yeah, and guess what? There's another guy with Kadri who maybe even is more appealing, at least based on the stat line lately, and that's this guy Martin Pospisil, a 4th-rounder in 2018. He's now up to 5 points in 7 games. He took 6 shots and scored a goal in that last game against the Islanders. He's shooting more than Zary. He also hits a lot. Why did I take Zary? Well, because he's on the top power play. That's why. And also, who the heck is Martin Pospisil? I don't know who he is, but also as a side thing, does Yahoo think that this line has 3 centers? Like all 3 of them are only center eligible on Yahoo. So if you do pick up Zary or Pospisil and are hoping to like hold them, I think there's a decent chance they're going to be getting winger eligibility soon because Kadri is the center of that line. So that's something to keep in mind as like a bonus you're going to get from either of these guys. But yeah, Brian, who's this Martin Pospisil? And did I make the wrong choice? Should I have gone him over Zary, or just grab both? Maybe I should take both.
I think both might be. So Martin Pospisil, out of Slovakia, he turned 24 today. Happy birthday, Martin Pospisil! It's
Woo.
the Pospisil birthday episode. He was
Are you going to
drafted.
name it that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I
What do
could
you have
call
right
it
now?
Happy Birthday, Martin. I have something about like drowning our sorrows, or I'm a man of constant sorrows.
Okay, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
I think you should call it the Pospisil birthday episode.
Okay, I'll
Think about it.
consider it. Where were we? Oh yeah, who is he? Well, you mentioned 2018 4th round pick and hasn't cracked the NHL until now, thanks to a great start with the Wranglers, the Calgary Wranglers of the AHL. 6 points in 6 games, a great start to his season, and really uncharacteristic of any kind of production that Pospisil has had in his lengthy-ish AHL career. Like, this is his 5th season playing at least part of the season in the AHL. So we'll see if he can keep it up. Like, it's an interesting, like, I don't know who else Calgary has to put there, right? Like, it's a bunch of guys all the time with the Flames these days. And
Like, you would have thought like Mangiapane, like, like
yeah,
someone a bigger name.
yeah, exactly. Or like Sharon Govich, like someone who has kind of done something before. But if Pospisil's there and it's clicking for the moment, then why not? So I think my guess is his deployment is more tenuous than Zari's. So if you're making an ad for the next 3 games, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I would go Zari because I'm more confident he'll be there by Friday, rather than Pospisil. But you could consider both. In fact, Elon, can I ask you a question for my own lineup right now?
Let's do it.
Okay. I have Logan Cooley and Ilya
Mhm.
Mikheyev. Okay, they're my next 2 drops. Do I drop one or both for Zari and Pospisil? And I'll tell you right, like Logan Cooley plays Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. Mikheyev plays Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, so I think you can drop Cooley because he's only going to get you the one game. You could drop Cooley for Zari, get an extra game. You're getting a rookie. You're swapping a rookie for a rookie, one that's doing better. I think I'd make that. And then maybe Mikheyev, you hold on, get the Monday game. It's versus San Jose. San Jose is a team that lets in a lot of goals. And then maybe you reassess after that.
Yeah, that's about where I'm at. I have like 3 moves still to burn, so I'm trying to decide whether I should just do it because I can.
Well, you
But I
should
think
do it, and you should also do like drop Cooley, add a bunch of IR eligible guys to use up your moves, and then add Zari at the end.
there's that wisdom. This
Is is
guy.
is Kuznetsov out there?
Oh, I doubt it.
Well, whatever. Find you could find who's injured. Let me know. I'd
Yeah,
be curious to know who
I'm
you see
I'm
there.
I'm looking up now.
Oh, I got a name for you right now. Jake Wallman. Is he out there? He's injured.
Kuznetsov is does appear to be available.
Yeah. Drop Cooley for Kuznetsov. Stash him. Add Wallman. Stash him. Add Zari. You're done.
Yeah,
Or
well, I only have one IR spot available.
oh, okay. Well, that's I didn't have all the information, but okay. Anyways, let's go next. Actually, since I mentioned Wallman here, Andrea also asked Gospaher, was his big game a mirage? I think I answered before realizing it was a question for the episode, being like, he's going to just kind of continue to have a big game and then a bunch of quiet games, and then he'll have a big game again. So like, I don't think it's a mirage in that it'll never happen again. But if you look at his game log, he had 1 goal and 2 assists versus Seattle on October 24th. Then he went pointless for, what was it, 7 games, including a healthy scratch. Then he had 1 goal and 2 assists versus Ottawa. And then in the last game versus Toronto, no points again. So I think that's pretty straightforward with Gostisbehere. At this point, he's on the top power play. So every once in a while, he's going to have some offense, but he's also going to go quiet. Brian, the more interesting question, I think, Dylan Larkin, a guy who we talked about a few episodes into the year, being like, this guy should have been drafted in like the first round of fantasy leagues. He's like, yeah, such an incredible start. It was like at one point, like a cupful league leader, is now super cold, pointless in 5 games. What the heck happened? What's going to happen? Tell us.
Sorry, I was too busy adding Kuznetsov and Barrett Hayton to my roster.
Oh, I thought that you only had 1 IR spot.
I do, but I'm gonna drop Jack Quinn.
Oh, yeah, obviously. Okay, that's easy. Good one.
I hope
But
I'm
okay,
allowed
but
to
did you
drop
hear my
him.
question about Dylan Larkin?
Uh, no. Like,
Okay.
yes, but no. I'm
Okay,
gonna
well, he's
ask you.
cold. He's
I'm sorry.
pointless in 5 games, and it's not looking good for
Thanks,
him after
James.
such an incredible start.
Sorry.
Oh, so I was going to keep this all in and not edit.
I
I'd
just
like to still do that. Is that okay?
no. I
Oh,
okay. I mean, I guess you could if you really wanted. Um. Okay. You're asking me about Dylan Larkin. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. He slowed down. He did. And like, wasn't supposed and Shane Gostisbehere, yeah, like he'll come and go. That's cool. I heard you say all that. Larkin is not this bad, right? Like he's had 2 5-shot games in this 5-game scoring drought. Although he's pointed just once in his last 9 after that crazy, crazy start. So hey, if you didn't manage to sell high, sure, maybe you're kicking yourself a bit about Dylan Larkin, but also you don't need to kick yourself too hard because the production's going to come back. Like as we mentioned about DeBrincat, maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, it's like the pendulum swung as we predicted, but it swung too far to bad variant. So Larkin and DeBrincat both going to be okay. And what else can you do? Like no one's dropping Dylan Larkin, right? Right?
Of course. That would be insane. Okay, so that's it, Brian, for our patron questions for this week. I got a few hot and cold streaks to finish the show off, and we'll get to them after we take our final break. We'll get to the third period of the doubleheader. We'll be back in a sec.
Can I just point out as we come back in from the break?
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the Red Wings power play deployment last game. It looked like Perron, Larkin, DeBrincat only got 50%, which was still 4 minutes of the team's time, but the rest was I don't know if they were like purposely splitting units or not. There was still a very clear unit number 1, Perron, Larkin, DeBrincat, Gostisbehere, Seider, but this other unit that featured Kopp, Comfer, Raymond, and then and Wallman, and then Sprong also saw a lot of time.
But it was just one game. So
yeah,
and they lost.
Yeah,
so we'll see. Like, something to watch, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not actually worried, but like I didn't catch that when I was talking about it. It's at least worth like putting out into the universe just to keep an eye on.
Are you saying this for the show?
Yeah.
Oh. How how will I put that in the show?
Don't worry about it.
I could. Okay. Like I said, I will take a break and then I don't remember.
No, I actually even said while I was saying it, like coming out of the break, I just want to mention.
Oh.
But I hear how you heard it. I hear that too.
All right, well, I'll put a note and I'll see if I can do it. I'll do 2 versions. Welcome back, everybody. We're ready to start wrapping up this show with a few hot and cold streaks, which are actually very significant and important to talk about. Okay, that's version 1. Here's version 2. Yes, very good point, Brian. And okay, with that, let's get into the final part of our show here, where I have some hot and cold streaks to get into. And Brian, yeah, I guess I mentioned these Avs already. I brought them up earlier. So I wanted to go to Vegas now. This is more like an accountability section. I just want to get an update. Just like I asked you about like Seth Jarvis, how are you feeling about him? Saying how we were wrong, maybe about Devon Toews, or at least for 1 week. William Karlsson. We brought him up, said how incredible his start has been so far. Pretty sure I recall your answer being like, it's not going to last. He's like, whatever, like he's just riding a good hot streak like he did in his first season. So it is worth mentioning that William Karlsson has continued to be red hot. Like he had 2 points in 2 games going into today's game against Pittsburgh, where he didn't get a point today, but he did take 4 shots. You look at the game log recently for William Karlsson, 4 and 9 shots versus Montreal. So he is starting to pick up the shots. Also, William Karlsson has been on the top power play lately, and Chandler Stevenson came back today. Didn't matter. Like he didn't bump William Karlsson. So I wonder if we need to reassess now that William Karlsson is A, starting to shoot, B, getting this top power play deployment. I think this might be more than just a random streak at this point. I think he might be more for real.
Oh, sweet Elon. I mean, again, you know what? I really don't have anything new to say since last time, which is that, yes, Karlsson has gone on a season-long bender before, and he's going to have to do it again. He's shooting 20%. His big season, he shot 23%. Ever since he's basically shot 10%. And Karlsson also has 4 power play points already from, well, what was the second unit for most of the season. Yeah. He has one power play point since joining the top unit. Okay. So even then, like even from the second unit, I mean, like I'm picking things apart here. But I look through Karlsson's numbers. I see it 5-on-5. He's shooting 27%. He's participated on 93% of the goals. I know.
Okay, if I may, you said this last time.
Yeah.
Since then, we've had 3 new games. In those 3 games, he has 17 shots. So, like, I wonder if a shift is
crazy at Montreal, right? And then 4 at Philly, and then 4 at Pittsburgh. It's a reasonable question, Elon, whether a shift has happened. I'm gonna need to see more to be convinced. Like up until November 16th, 3 games ago. All right, Karlsson played 16 games. He had taken 3 or more shots just 3 times, 4 or more shots just once. And now he's done 4-4-9 in his last 3 games. He heard you. Shots.
Yeah. He heard you on the last episode being like, he's not going to keep this up because of high shooting percentage. He was like, fine, I'll just shoot more. So I
William
can keep it
Karlsson,
up.
dedicated listener. I mean, part of this is that Karlsson, like, he played 9 minutes on the power play against Montreal, 5 minutes against Philly, 4 minutes against
That's
Pittsburgh.
what I'm saying, man.
But that also is because like they didn't score for nine. Like that's 9 minutes of not scoring. So even it's a lot of time and it's great. I just don't know he's going to keep seeing quite as much time, even if he does. Karlsson does hold on the top unit. So yes, Elon, like you're right. I shouldn't be as dismissive. While the percentages still favor are doing a lot of favorable things for Karlsson's bottom line, he is starting to contribute to his bottom line too. Since the last time we saw that, and I take and appreciate that point.
And also, he hasn't been on the top power play for the last 2 seasons and most of this season. This is a new development. And if it holds, I think it's a whole new situation. Maybe he's taking more shots like on the power play. I guess that's something you can easily check. But yeah, anyways, I just wanted to point out there, if you were still struggling to like sell high on Karlsson, hopefully you didn't sell, quote unquote high, but actually didn't get someone that good. Like maybe take a quick pause. Let's get some more data and make sure he's not actually just like a different player now. I don't know, something to watch.
I would go like if he was somehow free agent in my
of course
cupful
he's
division.
not.
Like
He's
no,
obviously
he's
not.
not.
He has
Yeah,
20
like
points in 19 games.
I'd be really happy to run out and grab him in a league where you have like 200 or 250 players rostered if you're able to.
No, I think the
don't.
question is
Yeah,
more like, I think last week you were like, try to sell him for whoever you can at this point.
yeah, and now you're right. The advice has shifted to be like, I'll wait to see, and if the shots die down again and this was short lived, cool. Then I'll go back to selling. But if not, then yeah, maybe I'll want to hold this guy.
Okay. And then I guess actually to question another thing we used to say on the show, which I think maybe doesn't apply anymore. Chandler Stevenson, like not good, right? Like I remember at one point you were like, I think he's actually like good. Like I think he's like someone you hold, you draft, you expect to be good. He like came back from his injury. He missed like 4 games, did nothing in 2 games so far. Only now, well, but he did start good. Okay, so I don't know. Maybe I'm like
He started
weighing
good.
too much. What do you think, Brian? 10 points in
Yeah,
15 games now for Chandler Stevenson. Not on the top power play, though, which is a bummer. He was on the top power play before his injury. Looks like he's gotten bumped by William freaking Karlsson. I have Chandler Stevenson. Should I hold him? Do I drop him?
I think you hold, and the only reason I'm saying hold is because we don't I want to see how long this power play one situation holds for. Although it seems to be working out with Karlsson there, so I guess I'm not holding my breath that Stevenson finds his way back up there. I will say at 5-on-5, like Stevenson's numbers have taken like a pretty decisive dive, and like not his own numbers, but his on ice line numbers. Like, um, last year was doing like what you'd expect, like maybe a second line to do at 5-on-5, or like some top lines, like doing pretty well. And this year it's more like checking line numbers, like per expected goal rates, and accordingly, the on ice shooting percentage is bad. It shouldn't be quite as bad, near 6%. But it should be a little better, but still like not necessarily that much better. Basically, Stevenson's line while he's on the ice is seeing about a half an expected goal less per 60 minutes, which is a pretty sizable drop. So that is a reason to say, hey, maybe something has changed with Stevenson at 5-on-5, because especially without that power play time, even with power play time last year, he only had 15 power play points. So Stevenson has been someone who's relied on that 5-on-5 production, and it's not coming, nor has the line looked very good. So I think it is very possible that Stevenson could be a snoozer. He's still on a 55-point pace, so I like that's still rosterable for the most part in the cupful, although he barely shoots. So in his specific sense, it wouldn't be. So yeah, Chandler Stevenson on snoozer alert if shot volume matters to you.
Yeah, and also next week, Shabs is saying in the chat here, yeah, only Wednesday, Saturday for Vegas, which isn't great. Norm
I
is
think
saying that the Knights got shut out today by Pittsburgh, so who knows? Maybe the lines and power plays change. So it'll be interesting to watch game day tweets and see how things shake out. But we'll have to wait till Wednesday to find out because they're not playing till then. Okay, a couple more cold streaks I wanted to bring it to you. 2 players that obviously I wasn't going to bring up on the, these players suck, but our short shifts host Lewis has been chatting about how he's very disappointed in what he's been getting from Kirill Kaprizov over in our live game chats recently. Kaprizov, like overall, like having an okay season. It's kind of like a Jason Robertson situation. Like, we're looking at close to point per game, but this is now 15 points in 17 games for Kaprizov after 2 pointless games over in Sweden. And yeah, this is a guy we were hoping for 90 plus 100-point pace. He's now at a 72-point pace. Are you seeing anything in Kaprizov numbers to indicate that he's like taking a step back? Or do you think this is like just a great moment to try to get him and he's about to take off?
such a great moment to buy low. And like, yeah, there are some numbers that like don't look like he's lost a little bit of shot volume at 5-on-5 and a little bit of expected goal rate at 5-on-5, which is like, like not a great thing. Okay. I'd rather him see hold or improve there. But honestly, that's just completely overshadowed by the fact that Kaprizov is shooting less than 4%. Usually he shoots 3 times that conversion rate at 5-on-5, and he's only participating on 33% of the goals scored while he's on the ice. So both of those reasons, honestly, alone are reason for Kaprizov to turn it around. And holy cow, does he need to? He is surviving alone on power play points right now. He's his 9 power play points through 17 games. That's amazing. That means he's pacing for over 40, which isn't quite going to hold. So we are going to need that 5-on-5 number to get better. And I really think it will. It's crazy. I should have looked, and I don't have the data right in front of me, but Kaprizov has 5 goals this season and is still only shooting 8%. I am not sure anyone with 5 goals or more is shooting less than 8%. Some of them are probably shooting like 14, 15%. So way to go. I want to say way to go, Kirill Kaprizov, for being someone that we can, I still think, really count on to turn things around. I think he's still doing a lot right. Not as awesome as last year. So I wonder if instead of a 92-point pace and hoping for a 100-point upside, we say, okay, like a 90-point pace, I'll happily settle for, which I will. And I don't think it's going to be too much longer. I hope it's not too much longer before regression starts to turn the other way and favor the fortunes of Kirill Kaprizov.
Okay, I guess we'll find out. By the way, Brian, meant about that Penguins game that just ended. Patty's pointing out in the chat, Nedeljkovic just had a gem of a game, and he just returned from injury. While he was in reassignment in the AHL, like rehab, whatever it's called, he scored a goal, which is fun. Now, like a day later, he just got a shutout, stopping 38 against Vegas. I wonder if this is something that we should start monitoring, because Nedeljkovic has been pretty good for Pittsburgh this year in the few games he's played. Tristan Jarry has been like, okay, I guess. He took the loss in the last game, letting in 3 goals, had 5 goals against the game before, 3 goals against the game before that. Before that, he had 2 straight shutouts. So that was good. Well, I guess one of them was he only played part of the game. Anyhow, I don't know.
Jarry's looking okay, right? Like I don't like I know where you're going, and
I wonder if he's vulnerable to a few more starts from Nedeljkovic. Yeah,
he might be. He might not be like Jarry's the only option, right, for Pittsburgh. Like they weren't like Hellberg wasn't going to keep being it, and Nedeljkovic wasn't also going to be it until he showed that he could do something. We don't know how great Nedeljkovic could be, but Jarry is. Like Jarry has been vulnerable to any kind of challenger, which he hasn't had. So I guess the question is, he hasn't been awful, by the way. 910 save percentage for Jarry this season, 54% quality starts, which is just fine. The thing that really stands out to me is through 13 starts, Jarry already has 3 really bad starts. For reference, it took him till in 47 starts last season, Jarry had 5 really bad starts. So he's just been blown up really badly enough times already to be like, are we sure about this guy? But that's the Jarry experience, right? The highs are high and the lows are low. Although I still think he's like pretty good on the whole. But I guess we expect him to play like 55, 60 games. And if Nedeljkovic proves to be someone who could play like semi-regularly and do semi-reasonably well, then maybe Jarry's starts, we adjust them to be like 50, 55 games instead.
Yeah, I think it's just something to watch. Like Nedeljkovic, like we at one point thought was good, then at one point we thought was like really terrible, and now it seems like he's good. Obviously, he's coming off a big game. I wonder if, like I'm not saying like Jarry becomes the backup or anything crazy like that, but I do wonder if he's not like the big volume guy like we're like hoping he would be, like similar to a UC Saros situation. Okay, one last player, Brian, then we'll get out of here. Mika Zibanejad is very cold, Dylan Larkin-esque after a similar, like not as good as Larkin start to the season, but Zibanejad was looking pretty good to start, was looking like a point per game guy, but now he's pointless in his last 3, only 1 assist in his last 6 games. Is there cause for concern here, or are you going to give the same answer and like about Kaprizov and about Larkin and all these guys, just like Zibanejad, he's fine.
Well, it's a little different because those guys are still on like what would be like not what we hoped for, but like okay floors. Like Kaprizov is still on pace for 72 points, right? And Larkin thinks his early start is still on pace for, I don't have the number up right now, but like still on a great pace. Zibanejad is pacing for just 55 points this season. One of the reasons for that, he has yet to score a goal at 5-on-5. So that hurts. He has like obviously 2 goals total. One came on the power play. The other was not in a 5-on-5 game state. I can't really locate where it would be, but basically Zibanejad is shooting about as much as he always has. And he is scoring on just 5% of his shots or not even when we've seen him convert on 15% of his shots already. So I'm going to do him a favor and I'm going to just go ahead and regress his goals from 2. I'm going to triple it to 6. And then all of a sudden he's got 14 points in 15 games, which puts Zibanejad about where we'd expect him. And honestly, and if you want him higher, if you're like, oh, I thought 90 to 100 points, well, guess what? I'm going to do you a favor. I'm also going to regress Zibanejad's points participation, which is down at 20% at 5-on-5, when he's normally been close to 80%. So you could, I'm not going to quadruple the number of assists he's gotten, well, because part of the equation will be the goals that he scores. But yeah, I think there's more to see from Zibanejad, and also the Rangers are not even shooting 6% with him on the ice. So Elon, you know what I think might be an interesting move? We were talking about Tage Thompson at the top of the show and Sam Reinhart.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you could trade Tage to the Zibanejad manager. Do you think the Zibanejad manager would take like a disappointment, an injured disappointment? I don't know. You're right. Or you're not even right. I'm just playing your. Would you do that? Would you?
I'll just let
Okay.
you keep talking.
Well, no. Sometimes I make unreasonable offers, and
I think that's
I've
reasonable.
gotten a lot better. But if I had Tage Thompson right now, I would be because I'd get an immediately healthy player in Zibanejad who I think has very similar upside to Tage Thompson, and I actually think is maybe might have better access to his upside than Thompson does.
I'd consider it. I don't think it's. I mean, I'd be bummed because I used a top pick on Tage Thompson, and now I'm trading him for like a
How much
stumping Mika
how
Zibanejad.
much
But
later was Zibanejad drafted though?
yeah, I'd have to check. I would guess like probably third round. I
I
could
have
find that out.
Zibanejad. He was taken second round, 10th overall. So that's 24th, and Thompson was taken 12th.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing actually 12th in the second round for Zibanejad. So okay, come at me, Deeks of Hazards, Anthony, if you want to talk. I need to think about it. It's kind of a big deal trading away my top pick. I'm not going to answer right now on the show, but I would. Yeah, I think that's if you're saying that you think but obviously now Anthony's listening to this, so he's hearing you say that's Zibanejad. It'll be fine. So there we are,
And
Brian.
maybe Anthony will look at my record this week in the cupful and be like, "That guy sucks. He has no idea what he's talking about." I will absolutely do the opposite of what he says I should do.
Yeah, perhaps. Okay. Well, Brian, what hasn't sucked is my time with you here tonight. I've had a blast. Hopefully, the listeners feel the same. The time has flown by, but we have come to that moment where we're at the end of the show. I'll blab a bit about some stuff like following us on Twitter. I don't care if you do that, actually. You don't need to do that. Okay. If I'm going to ask you for things, I guess I'll say like 5-star review would be dope. Giving us your listening and like subscribing, like all of that is really useful to us. We have our Patreon if you want to come hang out in our community. Thanks of course to all the people who have been patrons all season long and anyone who's joined. Like we really appreciate you and make this such a fun hobby and like experience doing this podcast and playing fantasy hockey. So yeah, thanks to the patron. And if you want to come hang out with us, keepingkarlsson.com/patron. We have some perks to try to make it worth your while for a measly $5 a month. I know in this economy it's tough, but if it's not that much to you, maybe it could be something you could consider. But with that, Brian, I'm ready to cue the outro music, and why don't you go ahead and read us the credits?
All right, I'm gonna add one more thing. Whitelist, GameDayTweets.com. Disable your ad blocker for it. It'd be nice. Yeah, and like go there often, as you already do, I'm sure. Okay, this episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast was presented by Dobber Hockey and powered by our patrons, including our super supporters who get their names read in the credits. That's right. It's Roman, Don, Michael, Jordan, Patrick, Aaron, Phil, Ivan, Sammy, Andrea, Zach, Tom, Ryan, David, Ricard, and Patty. Thank you all for your super support. Thanks to all our patrons for supporting. Like, we mean it. You really do power. If our patrons went away tomorrow, there might not be another episode. So thank you. You guys are doing the heavy lifting and we appreciate you. Thank you to Kevin Hebert, our couple coordinator, for continuing to crush it. Oh gosh, what would we do? Like everything we talk about the couple, Kevin's in on it. Okay. And maybe even more. So thanks, Kevin, for all the work you're doing. Elon, you and Shems crushing it at GameDayTweets.com, keeping us informed, keeping us off that platform as much as we possibly can. Follow our Short Shifts hosts at Short Shifts KK. Logo art by BrandonWeeb.com. Outro music by Pat Roach. This episode was researched with help from Dobber Hockey, the mark of websites, as you called it at the top of the show. Elon Frozen Tools, Dobber Prospects, Natural Stat Check, Evolving Hockey, Cap Friendly, The Athletic, HockeyGoalies.org, Hockey Reference, Hockey Viz, Hockey Database, Elite Prospects, and Yahoo.
Great job as always, Brian. Maybe that's the episode title. Something about being the mark. Consider it. Oh, hi, Mark. Someone will get that. Okay.
I get it.
Yeah, thanks everyone for listening. Looking forward to a couple Short Shifts episodes coming at you this week and coming to me as well. I always enjoy when they come into the feed. And Brian, what should we all do while we wait for all the great content and try to bounce back, those of us who, like you and I, didn't have the best week?
Please keep doing all you can. Like, even, yeah, I'm losing, but I'm still doing what I can to make sure that fantasy hockey is for everyone. So, like, yeah, everyone can win and lose. That's okay.
Not everyone can win.
Yeah, but everyone can play. And do what you can to make that true.
Definitely. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
That was fun. Okay.
Good job. We did pretty well on the time. I really appreciate that. Clearly, I am sick. I don't know if you've
I didn't been
watching my video. I'm sure it has not been like fun for people to watch as I sneeze and blow my nose.
It turns out, so I'm gonna lose my matchup by like 20.
Oh, no.
I had 2 moves left. If I would have used them to stream in Nedeljkovic and Erson, and I did actually think about, like, should I just stream 2 goalie starts? I would have won.
That's crazy though. Like on one night would Nedeljkovic and Erson give you 20 points?
Yeah.
Tonight. That's about it. So don't beat yourself up on that one.
It is something I considered though, which just makes me feel a little bit like I did consider it.
Yeah, you were so close.
Whatever.
Thanks to you and Shams for the IR pickup. I was really struggling with how to burn my last. I mean, I didn't mention, like, I also have Mrazek and Ingram, who I don't expect to play until, like, you know, they each played the most recent game for their team. But maybe Ingram starts tomorrow.
Yeah, Ingram starts tomorrow.
Does he? He played last night.
No, Vejmelka played last night.
Oh, what day is it? Okay.
Sunday, the 19th.
Wow. That's crazy. How does time fly?
I guess, yeah.
Okay.
Just look and see if Arizona won or lost, and that's how you can tell which goalie played. All right. Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.